Good evening, everybody. Hello. For those that haven't been around very long, in Speed Speak, I'm Az. In Speed Speak, this is Ash. We've got a lot to do, so I'll shut up, sit down, and she'll get on with it.
I think I'm going to start with a striptease. Nothing personal, but it's awfully hot in here. Right now. Can you hold this, please? I can't deal with this. Yeah. Yeah, excuse me. I usually hide under my jacket, but when it's this hot, I just can't. Okay. Well, we're going to try to be more on time this time, because this is one of the things that I have set out with the Guardians to say, please, I know it's difficult to get information through the grids, but it's also difficult to have to wait for 20 hours before you can deliver a workshop, that kind of thing. We are working on it. It has to do with what we're calling time waves. Now, in this workshop, we're going to be discussing time waves, which is a subject I almost dread because I'm just learning as well. The reason we're a little bit late for now is because I wanted to make sure you had an itinerary. I love itineraries. They give you a basic idea of what you hope happens, right? Now, when you're on Guardian time, the times can change. Hopefully they won't. We're going to try to stay close to this, but again, it's going to depend on when information comes. I have been working for the last 4 months on a particular group of translations called the monadic transmissions, and they are the most difficult, most complicated things I have ever seen or translated, and it doesn't help at all that the URI groups a long time ago, before they were called UIR, have certain things in the planetary shields that are called tags, that they put them in at certain frequencies where you attempt to activate certain frequencies on the planet. It happens to be the frequencies that this information rides on. If you try to activate it, it tags it and it scrambles it. It's like having a scrambler on a TV or a radio station. And they've been extremely difficult to bring through. We're still bringing more through. We'll probably be bringing monadic teachings through from now till 2012 because it is not a simple subject. And honestly, I don't know about you, but I don't think we need any more complication at this point. We need the information, but can't we, summarize it, please? I've been spending the last 4 months dealing with spins of Partakai units. It took 6 or 7 pages to get between the first Partakai that ever happened and the second one. And what happened between that one and the other one? That's way up at the, Christ level. That's way up in your Akasha Aya level. So what we have and what we're trying to do, we've got an itinerary that is very, very ambitious. What's really funny about the itinerary is some of the things we'll be teaching, I have no idea what they are, but we'll be teaching them, which means they're going to be live transmissions coming in. Now, we are going to try to do as much summarization as possible, which means I have to ask them to translate off the plates first and step it down, because it will take me 20 years to translate this type of data. What's important about the monad is it ties everything together. Your pillar of power, your levels of anatomy, your breathing. All of those things that become very practical and real down here are tied together with understanding at least a little bit about what the monad is, where it is, and what it does for you. So we're going to get into the monad teachings a bit on the first day. And that's the easy part, I hear, right? I'll read to you what they wrote to me just so I can remember, because it just came through, and we literally just typed it up for me, and I was scribbling it to him in a paragraph at a time and handing it over to him to typeset. What we have are, let's see, where am I? This isn't what I need, is it? What is this? Wait a minute. Where's what I... Wait a minute. Techniques. Where's the... Okay, part 1. All right, down here. It was just in a different order than I had. You put the techniques up front. Okay. Okay, I usually follow with techniques. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so what we're supposed to be doing, this will give you an overview of what we're going to be doing tomorrow and the next day. The first part, which will run from 2:30 tomorrow afternoon till 7:30 tomorrow with a break, 7:30 tomorrow evening with a break between 4:30 and 5. Now before that, there are the other half of the activations, right? The shield activations. Okay. Right. I thought that was going to be on here somewhere. This is this. Okay. Okay. You use a shorthand that confuses me when I'm reading it. Yeah. Okay. What we're going to be doing tonight, just following this, there are a series of shield activations. Some of you have had some of them. A few of you have had all of them. And it doesn't matter if you've had none of them or all of them. What we're being asked to do is to participate in these because there's a shield amplification level that's going to be needed to participate with the new set of codes that have come through. One of the exciting highlights of this workshop will be dealing with these new codes. They're called Voyager's codes, and they're compound codes, and they're kind of nothing like what you've seen before. They're journey codes, and we'll explain more about what they are. But the shield activations that are going to be run tonight after I get done speaking, in fact, I'm not going to speak a long time tonight because it's important that these activations take place in your shield so you can get enough frequency up to participate if you're planning to participate with the other shield techniques that we're going to be doing. So altogether, between tonight and tomorrow morning before you see me again, there's going to be 4 or 5 hours worth of technique activations. Now, you don't have to participate, but you're being asked to simply because the people who do are going to have a really high shield resonance, which means the information that we bring through will be easier to assimilate when you're in that state. First of all, I'll make more sense to you, particularly if I start speaking really, really fast, which happens on occasion when it comes through live. Kind of thing, right? Secondly, by the time we get done with the workshops, we'll understand more about what all these techniques have been, because we've had what are called the radon activation techniques. And we're still kind of going, wait a minute, what are radon cells again? You know, this started in Belize when we did the Belize trip in August, and it has progressed. We've done the Nadradon Awakening, the Zendradon Awakening in the UK workshops, the Kathara Awakening recently in India, and we're preparing now for what's called the Ethradon Awakening. And it appears that this is a big one, because the Ethradon has been described as the etheric atomic doorway, and this kind of anchors and lets rip everything else that's activated before. Now, why do you want to let these frequencies rip? What are these frequencies in the first place, right? This is where understanding the monad and the structure of your Yucatharista body comes in. Because when we talk about radon cells, what we are doing are talking about very specific cells that are in the Yucatharista body, way up there on the higher expanded levels of your own crystal body, beyond your crystal body here, way out there. All right, these are your direct connection to source cells, let's put it that way. It'll make more sense when we have diagrams that I'm working on at the moment, that kind of thing. But these radon activations are very important because the planet is activating its radon cells. And if we want to be able to coast the time wave that the planet's going to be running, the part of the planet that's on the ascension path, then we need to be able to have those level of frequencies running in our bodies. By the time we're done with this workshop, I hope to get across to everyone, whether you've been keeping up with things, as far as they unfold very quickly sometimes with this work, or whether you haven't, so you can understand a little bit about what the planet's going through right now. Because it's going through some really major events. In fact, major events like nothing that has ever happened here before. And there's a good side to that. It's not a scary, big, bad thing. But it's something that's good to be prepared for, particularly if you want to choose what path of evolution you end up on. And we're going through some things that have little buzzwords that have a little scary connotation. One is called red pulse. Now, we've heard bits about red pulse, some of us have never heard of it, and you're probably better off not at this point. No. We've talked about the word starburst as well. Now, these are phenomena in energy that take place within the energy body of the planet and the solar system and the galaxy and up and beyond. Starburst is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But it's a thing that's triggered only if consequences of misuse of energy on a planet or in a universal system have gotten so bad that the entire system's going to crash with its Eka, and which is its core, its central sun. Now, starburst has been triggered in our Eka-Veka system. Starburst involves the Ruche pillars that we've talked about, the 12 pillars. They're going to still anchor, but each one of them is going to go through its personal starburst when it does. There's a whole thing in India that we were given. Oh, my goodness. The India trip was something, because we were given like this document that it was all, take it down, and as I go read it, and then I take down the next bit and go read it. it was so complicated, just explaining step by step the dynamics of what happens when a pillar starbursts. There's like a million different phases. We'll cover some of those in kind of like easy form. In fact, I'm going to try to have that in the chart pack so everybody can get a copy of that. Yeah. Well, that's done. That one's from India. We suffered through that one in India. But it gives you an idea of the complication of the energy mechanics that are unfolding underneath us, whether or not we want to participate. Starburst is it's a good thing because it allows for what's called monadic reset. Once you understand what your monad is a little better, you'll probably be more appreciative of the fact that it's being reset instead of being allowed to follow the planetary monad that is going into full reversal. The planetary monad is also having a chance to be reborn, where the parts of it that cannot hold and not go Metatronic will be able to literally rebuild. And this is a separation of two paths, more than we've talked about before. We'll get into the dynamics of the pillars and what starburst means. There's another part that even the people in India hadn't heard about. They heard about the 15-day cycle for each pillar and the fact that there's a dimensional red pulse for each of those starbursts. Now, a red pulse is something that can pass through you if your biology can handle it. If your biology can't handle it, it will cause progressive deterioration of associated dimensional levels of the shields. Now, there's a host program going down on this planet. The entire planet, what can hold it, is going to be on what's called the Polarian host, which means there's a buffer that's going to protect a lot of the life field. And the indigo shield is part of that buffer. If we aren't able to anchor the Polarian host properly and activate the sites on the planet that the Polarian host can come into the shields through, then that host won't be available here for any of us. The indigos would be the lucky ones in that sense, because most of us can make it out, maybe not with our bodies, but we'd be able to get out before fall if that was going to happen here. But all of the other life forms on this planet, they need this host. So we're part of a very, very big mission, and a lot of us are part of it. If you end up at these workshops, you tend to have a contract already, not with us, but with somebody upstairs very high. If most of the people that come to these workshops are not just angelic human, they are indigos, because we are activating the indigo shields on this planet. The indigo shield steps down frequencies so the planetary shield can handle them. Now, that means the indigo shield carries more coding collectively than the planetary shield itself. So we're in the middle of a very big project. It involves dimensional red pulse, which is different than the red pulse that some of you might have read about in Voyagers. A pure solar red pulse that happens in a chaotic manner is where all the dimensional levels get hit with red pulse at the same time, and it literally vaporizes whatever portion of the matter base is plugged into that red pulse. That's not going to happen here because this is controlled, because it's run as a natural part of starburst. Now, with starburst, it's a very sequential autoimmune response system of the living Eucatharista body of the cosmos. And we're right now experiencing, it's kind of like being inside of a body and watching all the little white corpuscles and things come running to like get rid of invading viruses and that kind of stuff, because it wants to protect the integrity of the body. So we're a part of something natural here. But most people on this planet have no clue such things even exist. We will be able to move through red pulse, each pillar at a time. Now, there's something that the people in India didn't find out about yet either. They found out about red pulse. They found out about the 15-day starburst cycle per pillar that we'll be going through, as if there weren't enough dates to keep track of. Right? There are more. But now there's something called the outpicturing cycle. Now, when a pulse runs, say a red pulse or a starburst pulse, runs through the grids, it takes a while for it to get all the way through all the levels of crystal body anatomy on the planet. And then there comes a point when it goes from the pre-externalization phase of the etheric atomic bodies into the externalization phase. That part would be called the outpicturing cycle. What we didn't know in India was it's, I believe, 6 months after a pillar finishes its starburst cycle and its red pulse. 6 months after is when its outpicturing cycle unfolds. It actually builds up until then, and then there's like a final pop. So whatever you're going to see in relation to the pillar that just went is going to be, for odd number pillars, 6 months, and for even number pillars, 4 months. So we're going to have a schedule at some point, just so we have a clue. I think we're going to do a calendar at some point, just like the Azeroth calendar of grid activations, just so you can keep track of, when you're looking at, oh yeah, that's going off today, that's going off 3 weeks from now, just so you have some clue. Because there's going to be really wacky frequencies running through the grids between the natural ones that go with Starburst and the stuff that the UIR are up to, because they're still doing their Metatronic activations all over the place. It's like a free-for-all down here, frequency-wise. So if you feel weird at any time, if you get like time stretches and distorts and gets really fast and really slow, you can't sleep, you can't eat. Sometimes you can sleep, except it's in the middle of the day, that kind of stuff. If you feel a little wacky in relation to time, you're not alone. And this isn't going to change. It's going to get stronger unless we learn to surf the time waves. And what this workshop is hopefully going to give you is enough information that you can understand, first of all, what is a time wave? If you don't understand what a monad is, you're not going to understand that time waves are made by very specific cycles of pulsing of the monad that sends stuff through the shields that makes waves. That creates other things. So we'll get into that so you'll understand a little bit about what time waves are and how they relate to base pulse rhythms that we've talked about in Kathara 2.3. And we'll be able to understand a little bit more about the drama that we're in the middle of right now, because it's not just us, not just indigos. They're going to have time wave chaos running through their bodies. It's a whole planet. This ought to be really interesting by the time we get to like Pillar 2, which is, 2006, I think that goes? Yeah, because Pillar 2 is the one that affects the elemental kingdom. That's the D2 matter base that we see as solid out here. This ought to be really interesting. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't think the Guardians know what it's going to look like down here. They really tune into us as well to monitor, how the grids are here and what's happening. There's a lot going on and a lot to talk about. But what's most important, I think, is to be able to stay centered personally. Within a huge drama like this, it's very easy to start feeling like a little snowflake that hits the earth and melts into a puddle and just gets absorbed. There's so much information, so much going on. It's even hard to remember what is it that's going on. It has something to do with starbursts and monads, right? Yeah. What am I supposed to do about it? I forget, right? There's so much data. We have a heck of a time anymore. The data that's being given to us now, well, most of it we didn't need in the original plan because we didn't think it was going to go full starburst. But there was always a probability that it would. Probabilities are interesting. They're different time vectors out of the same, say, core event crystal, where you have a series of probabilities, and all of them will get fulfilled somewhere. We happen to be in the one that fulfilled the big one, right? Where we went all the way to as low as it possibly could go, so it could go all the way back up to as high as it possibly could go. So in that sense, we're in a very good probability, but it is a challenging one as far as frequency and those kind of things go. The shield activations that we'll be participating in, some of you have had parts of and some of you would have all of, they are, again, redoing the radon cell activations. And even if you've had them, we're even going to do the pulling the pin one that has to do with undoing the gravitron nasty vortex that's running inside of your systems from the implant systems, the UIR implant systems. The Sexton shield. We're going to be doing those again because there's something called the Janus shield. As if there weren't enough shields. There's something called the Janus shield that we found out about in India. This is a very large frequency spread of shield that links what's called the Rama temple complexes of Earth and through this solar system and galaxy and universe into the arc gate system. And it allows it to be held from the Akasha level, where if there's not enough grid stability to allow gates to open, let's say, the Janus shield will allow and strengthen, it will create a bond between fragments of gates in the planetary shields that will allow them to hold integrity. There's still some of this. I'm just trying to understand, what are we doing? How is it that we're moving what's under the Taj Mahal over to Phoenix? I'm not exactly sure. Hopefully we'll understand more about that by the time we're done with this, but it has to do with the Janus shield. And I picture this like wonderfully huge disc that runs from the Taj Mahal in India over across the ocean over here and plugs into Phoenix. What it actually looks like, I don't know. I don't have a diagram yet or even a visual. But it is a frequency bridge that was put into the Rama temple complexes, and this was like seeding 1 and seeding 2 era when the Rama temples were at their height. It is going to allow what are called accelerator seats that are in the Arc gates, like Arc 7, to be activated to allow the Rama temple complexes to have their central control shields from here, from Arc 7. So that's why it's been funny watching the last 6 months before we even knew about this. There's like this call to Phoenix. People have been like streaming into Phoenix, deciding they were going to move here, deciding they were going to visit. I mean, it's like really interesting. It was interesting to watch. Like, there goes there's somebody else is moving to Phoenix, and somebody else is moving to Phoenix. Yeah, and I'm not saying you have to move to Phoenix, but it's funny to see that the call went out frequency-wise, where people were just getting moved to do that for whatever their reasons. But these are going to become some of the safest and strongest grids on the planet. They're also going to be the control center for the entire planetary Rama temple complex. We only know of some of the main sites, like a couple of the main sites of the Rama temples. These have been undercover for a very, very long time. The last time I think they were fully used, I have to go back in the notes to see from India, but I think it was during the Inner Earth Rebellion, which was a little snippet of information, I believe, that was in Voyagers 2, where who was trying to take over at that point? I think it was the Anu were trying to take over surface Earth, and the Eka races opened the gates of the Rama temples, and they came through and said, "No, you don't." And they literally came through, and it was like, are we going to do electric wars again, or are you going to leave and stop it? And they stopped that time. The Anu races had stopped. So that's when humans were able to continue, evolving again. That was the last time they were used for direct intervention. They are being opened again progressively because direct intervention, I do believe, is going to be necessary after 2012 or during 2012 or possibly for some of us before 2012. So we're being taught some things a little ahead of schedule. They have to do with, first of all, projecting, learning to change the channel on your brain, learning to shift your focus where you can hold more than one focus at the same time, learning that you have mobility of consciousness. Now, the reason why people on this planet tend to not have a huge mobility of consciousness has to do with the chakra system. It has to do with the fact that you've got 2 vortices out of 6 turned on in every chakra. One of the things we're going to get to on Sunday is finding out what chakras are really supposed to look like, how many vortices they're supposed to have, what they're supposed to be doing, and we're going to turn them back on. It's called the 6-fold activation. And this is big time, because it's not just the ones that are in the body, but it's also the really big ones that stack up above and down below. Once you have those turned back on, it turns back on the missing frequencies in the Rishite spiral, that spiral of frequencies that runs down your central vertical column. And it's because those things have been turned off that we've had a very small range of mobility. We might be able to climb ourselves out to D4 on occasion, and sometimes even up to D5, especially if you do it with the near-death experience. That'll blow you out up high enough where you can, temporarily get up there and go, wow, I see D5. That's a long way. Usually it takes a spaceship coming down and somebody messing with your DNA to get you on board that spaceship so they can take you someplace else. And that's like major, that's very difficult to do, and it's only in special circumstances that they tend to do that, at least our guys anyway. So we're going to be taught more, and I say we are going to be taught, not that I'm going to teach you, because I'm going to share with you what we're being taught, because I'm going to learn too about how the chakras are actually structured. And it's interesting. Just imagine a ruche, because they are all structured on a ruche. And we are going to turn on the vortices that have been dormant, which will cause the ones that have been twisted, because some of the spirals that belong to one chakra were forced into an unnatural phase bond with spirals from another one to make a pseudo-chakra halfway in between that wasn't a natural one. And when you turn on the rest of the vortices that belong there, it will naturally straighten out the ones that are twisted. Once you get the vortices turned back on, then there's something called encryption. Encryption is neat. Encryption is a set of vibrations that hold intention. Source created the first particle, and the second one, with encryption. Intention in the form of a vibration of consciousness that is imbued within a standing flame that serves as the creation matrix that will bend frequency and consciousness and energy into form through the crystal body structures. we're going to learn a little bit about encryption and about chakra encryption, how to encrypt the chakra shields. In fact, they're called chakras, right? With an S-H, right? Shaka, yeah. So we're going to be taught how to begin doing encryption in the chakra shields. There's certain ones you can use to make things manifest through that. And remember, each chakra has to do with a dimension. It carries, the full subharmonics of a full dimensional spectrum, and it also blends with other ones. So there will be a time when we get very specific as far as what frequencies, and you put it where, and it comes out where, right? If I put it here, it comes out where? Do I see it here? Do I have to put it in my second chakra to get it to come out here? We're going to be taught like much more specific ways of encryption. But the first thing is to get familiar with what encryption is and how to do it. And it has to do with being able to form clear and very steadily focused mental images or feeling tones. You don't have to be able to visualize to do it. Some people have visualized turn on, some don't, and it doesn't matter. If you can't visualize and see images or feel images in your head, you can still intend that they're there. The intention is what causes the vibration. It's a still point vibration that doesn't vibrate and go anyplace. It stays, and it holds the intention of consciousness. And we're going to be taught how to do this and how to use something called our Akushate memory crystal complex, as if we don't have enough anatomy already. Right? We'll learn a little bit about what the Akusha crystal is, because the Akusha crystal, it sits up in our Akasha level of our shields in our Kathara body as we're going up. And it is the entire memory crystal is the first Kelon that was formed when we came in through the Akasha level into the God seed. So there is a way of activating this. One of the techniques that you will go through if you haven't done it in India is anchoring this, first of all, where you bring down your Akusha crystal, and it becomes a permanent fixture around you, which really means you went up in frequency to be able to unite with it. It's not that it moved down, it's you moved up. And once it's around you, then you can do all sorts of things, like begin the process of learning to encrypt, so you can begin to manifest. So there's a technique that will give you the beginning of this when you do this set of techniques. This one will be tomorrow during the morning. And we'll take it from there with the techniques we're being given. Some of the things that I can hardly wait for these workshops. I'd love to be sitting in the seat and just having a Yanni come up and teach these, because the subject matter is wild. The first one, that starts at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, part 1 is called God Source, Self, and Space-Time. Transcendent Anatomy, First Creation, Monadic Mechanics, the Akushate Memory Crystal Complex, the Yukatharista Eternal Flame Body, Radon Awakenings, and the Personal Pillar of Power. We're going to talk about those things. I don't have these diagrams yet. It's going to be a very long night for me. Right? I have some of them, but not all of them. And I'm still trying to figure out where all the little circles go, and hopefully I'll figure that out because the translations are getting twisted and scrambled as they're coming in. It's like, nope, have to throw that paper away. Start again, guys. This is the only one I've had to repeatedly for the last 4 months. You'll find me curled up under the table at home, just literally curled up sleeping, because I have to go out to get the next piece in to step over the grid distortions. It's some of the most difficult stuff I've ever brought through. And it's going to be so easy once you see it on a diagram. Once it's down, oh, what was so hard about that, right? Yeah, right. And hopefully it won't be hard once it is down. Because once it's down and you see the whole thing in the form it's supposed to be in, it's like, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. That's simple. And it is. That's what's so frustrating. Monadic stuff isn't really that difficult. But when you're trying to understand it while somebody's trying to scramble it so you can't, it is difficult. And there's a lot of, let's say, UIR representatives paying attention to what's being done right now, because they're not too happy about the fact that we're activating the Rama temples. They're not too happy about the fact that that means that if they get too far out of line and try anything really drastic, not that they haven't already, they will probably end up with company. In other words, if they do decide, if the UIR do decide at any point to do official disclosure, which would mean a direct takeover attempt, where they would literally come in, say, hi, ETs exist, and after that you would watch martial law clamp down across the planet, literally, in every country, and anything you thought you might have had as a freedom will be gone. If they attempt to do that, our guys will come in too, which ought to be really interesting. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. It's actually better to have official denial as far as the ET presence and that kind of thing goes. Because if we get to the point where that changes, everything is going to change overnight. And it's going to go into survival mode. And people that don't know anything about any of this are really going to freak out. They're going to be scared to death. You're going to have the Pope telling them certain things, and you're going to have the scientists telling them other things, and it's going to be really wacky. Hopefully, it will be worse than one of those B science fiction movies, the B grade movies. It really would. So it's on the table that they're being monitored. The UAR are being monitored because there are some groups of them that are for just go in and clamp down. And others are saying, no, we'll still do it behind the scenes because we don't want a planet full of how many billion people running like crazy people with chickens with their head cuts off because they'll be freaking out. They'll be scared. So it's still on the table for them. If we get to that, we'll get a protocol also. Hopefully by then we'll be able to know how to go out and get the information. The technologies we're going to be just learning in this workshop are the beginning of projection technologies, which means you'll learn, let's say, certain avenues through your own biology that will allow you to travel certain avenues through the planetary and solar and galactic biology so you can get to places that are beyond distortion fields. So you'll be able to strengthen your own connection to your connection to source, your direct connection, and also you'll be able to interface with guardian races more easily. These will be technologies that if they ever do official, a disclosure on this planet, they will be absolutely essential. Because you'll need to be able to. We won't be able to have workshops. They'll probably shoot us at that point. Because you'll be living underground someplace, and I'll look very different. Probably dye my hair black or something. Wear a beard and a mustache. Yeah, right. Yeah, you can be a transvestite, and I'll just be a guy. Yeah. Might as well. But it's going to be really important as we progress, even if it doesn't get as wacky as what official disclosure would mean, to be able to tap in yourself and to find the links to the guardian networks and to, you have family out there. In fact, when we get into understanding the radon cells a little better, you'll find that they're not just things of physics, which they are. They're balls of consciousness. They're families of consciousness that you came out of that are still part of you. It's more like you're a cell in their body because they're bigger. Right? So as we progress with these particular technologies, the Voyager's codes, they call them Voyager's codes because they're traveling codes. There is a book someday, I hope there's time to write, and it's called Time Traveler's Guide to Symbols and Their Uses. It was like a book of maps. You look at it and it's just pretty pictures. But anyway, the second part of tomorrow's workshop is going to be base pulse rhythms, breathing, and introduction to Trinity time wave mechanics. Preparation for May 2005 Kathara Ethridon Awakening. And the first technique we're going to do is breathing liquid light, Crystalla activation, and Iridon awakening. Now we've got iridons. These are some of the balls I'm trying to find out where they go on the maps because they're little round circles when you draw them on diagrams, and they're part of our anatomy, and they're very special because they have to do with the pure Ire frequency. When you have the Manu, the Mane, and the Ire frequency way up at the top of the Katharista body, the first levels of creation. And there is, I believe in the Bible translations, it talked about the seas, or the ocean, and some, depending on what Bible you're reading, words it differently. But there was darkness upon the waters. I always thought it was funny how they started creation there. Like, wait a minute, where'd the waters come from? Wasn't there a step before that? They had to come from somewhere. You got darkness, great, but we have it upon the water. You didn't say how the water got there. Well, the waters they're referring to have to do with these Ire fields and the iridon cells that are formed through them. I just can't wait to find out what iridon cells do. They're even more important than radon cells. They're connected. In fact, I think they form the radon cells. But what they'll do ultimately is open up in your center vertical column, literally, the liquid light flow. And this allows a whole bunch of other stuff we'll find out about, but it's exciting, and I'm excited to learn about this. This stuff, I don't know if it's on security clearance or just so far out there in frequency that it just hasn't downstepped yet, because I can't even touch it. I'm still trying to get the diagrams as where are these in relation to the rest of the anatomy. That's all I want to know. When you take your Katharista body, and let's say we start up at the Christ level, way up there. Are they up there? Yes. Okay. Where are they up here? Well, they're right around there. What angle are they at? That's where it gets confusing, where you find out what angle they're at and how they're related to other things. But what we're going to be finding out is about our transcendent level of anatomy a little bit more. We learned about the basic stairway to heaven that we each have embodied within us, and that we're actually embodied within the center of. We're going to learn more about the cells of the Yucatharista body up on the higher levels and how they step down through the various levels, through the Akasha and then down to the Eka and down to the Veka. So we understand our relationship to them, so we understand what these frequencies are that are going to be opening in our bodies. Once those are opened, we'll also be able to move our consciousness. When you have the chakras open and the central vertical column open to these frequencies, it means the passages between here and source will open progressively. Now, they're not going to all open at once or you'd, disappear. You go home real fast. I'm not here anymore. Yeah, it would be a little too rapid, and too rapid would mean, go home in pieces. And that's not how, we don't teach how to blow yourself up by using Kundalini. We're going to learn how to activate in the shields very specific, not just codes, but compound groups, sometimes of thousands of codes. We've had Veka codes, and we have Eka codes, and we have all those fun codes we've been using. Imagine 1,000 of those rolled into one code on all of the shield levels, all the way up. That creates a passage of frequency that opens doors for consciousness to travel and eventually for bodies to travel if the bodies can progressively activate to hold the frequencies. This is what we're beginning. It all has to do with something that they keep... They've used this term a few times because they know there's a song that I used to like a long time ago that used the concept. And they say it's because the loadout has begun. Now, it's a Neil Young song, I believe, and it has a chorus part in it. The song is called The Loadout. And there's one little lyric in there that says, "And we're flying Mother Nature's silver seed to a new home in the sun." That song was written through a vision. And that vision was the vision of part of what was hopefully going to be accomplished before the Anunnaki and Anu decided they were going to do the war edict. There was a vision of hope that we had shared with the Anu races before they decided we weren't worth bothering with and they tried to take over the planet instead. That was a small version of what starburst is. That was just ascension to the next density level. Starburst is like 1,000,000 times that. The loadout referred to loading people in to the vehicle that was going. The loadout is a period of time when the shields, anybody, if you look at the indigo shield as a bus that turns into a plane, that turns into a submarine, it goes wherever it needs to go and picks up whoever's going. The loading has begun, and it's the loadout. And what's going to be at the end of that loadout is flying Mother Nature's silver seed, Earth, to a new home. And we'll talk about where that new home is. We introduced that stuff in India, and that was another set of fun diagrams. Talk about reversing everything and seeing the underside of it like a plate. Take the Eka maps and look at the underside, find out where parallel Eka is. Because the grids on this planet and in this Veka system, this entire Eka-Veka system, are being rotated into the parallel Eka-Veka system. And if that doesn't happen, they will fall Metatronic. So the ascension path is going through something called the Rama Passage, which is like a huge version of the Ark of the Covenant passage. But it spans between our Eka-Veka system and the parallel Eka-Veka system. This is part of something called the Starburst plus 90 shift. It has to do with, there was one diagram a while back that we had that showed how we were shifting from the first Hethara and Hethalon up through, and then by 2012 we'd be up here somewhere. Well, there's 90 degrees more that we're going to be shifting. That means the angular rotation of particle spin on the grids that are going ascension. That means the bridge zone has just gotten to be very much longer as far as the bridge. It's like they add some more spans to it. We'll talk about that information, which gets kind of like heavy and intense, trying to keep track of all of the things that are going down. What's most important first is taking it from yourself, where we are here, and your local self, like all the way up to God. You know? So we're going to start with the monadic information. Then we're going to progress into getting the chakras activated and the shields activated. And then the last segment on Sunday night that is going to go till midnight, and there's a reason it's going to go till midnight. It's because there is a major shield activation that the accelerator seat is going to activate, the Phoenix accelerator seat. And that also means you'll pick up the extra acceleration if you happen to be sitting on it when it does and you're running the codes. But that is the night that we're going to talk about the big picture, the big drama, and those kind of things. We'll talk about what is Starburst plus 90 shift. What is that? Where is parallel Eka? What does that have to do with us here? What is the Rama passage? How is it that the thing under the Taj Mahal is coming to Phoenix? All of those things will be dealt with on Sunday night. And hopefully by then, they won't seem so, what in the world is she talking about? Because you'll understand more about what a monad is. You'll understand how it fits in with your crystal body anatomy and how that fits in with your basic Kathara grid and that kind of stuff. So what we're going to try to do before we get to addressing the big picture is to address the parts that a lot of people, I know me included, went through K23, which was like thrown at us, literally. Wasn't supposed to be, some of it wasn't supposed to be here till 2008. And it just all got stuffed down the tubes. We have a wonderful book of pictures with hardly any words. And I look back through that and I go, oh my God, I wouldn't want to have to teach that again because I can't even remember this stuff. So if anybody feels a little lost when they get into the K23, that's very understandable. And it's like, great, we got that. Now we have more anatomy coming. It's like we're swimming in anatomy, and it can get to the point where you just want to, I don't want to look at it anymore. I can't stand it because I can't put the pieces together. So I think there's a lot of this for a lot of people have been feeling it. I know I've been feeling it, and I'm the one that came through, right? And I still look at it and go, oh no. I'm still working on the K23 manual to try to put words in it. So anybody that gets that manual will be able to make sense of it. Because it has lovely pictures with little blurbs of information, but nothing that really links anything together. What I'm hoping to do here in this workshop is to be able to, through the monadic teachings, the beginnings of the monadic teachings, show you how the parts at least basically link together and how that links to the monad and how that brings you right back to here and breathing. And then, shield activations that we're doing. So it makes more sense. So the pieces kind of connect better. Because at this point, there's so much detail. And K23 looks like hardly any detail at all compared to the monadic transmissions. Yeah. And it's like we don't need that level of detail at this point. We can't retain it. I can hardly pull it. I mean, these transmissions have been making me physically ill because of the frequency itself is fine, but between the tags that they pick up in the grids when it comes through, my body has to transmute those tags before it can unscramble the information to translate it. I've had times where I can get 10 minutes of translation done and have to pass out for 2 hours to clear. It's been really, really rough, and that's why, like, what this is going to look like through this, I think it will help because you're all here. There's a strength in the indigo shield when it assembles. When people get together, we each strengthen each other's shields. So I believe we'll be able to get a lot more information through easier during this workshop period because you're all here. And I thank you for that, for coming and for being with us. And I hope it's exciting, and I hope we can be on time. I've said, and I keep telling them, I know, I don't mean to whine, but can we please, if we say we're going to have a workshop at 2:30, be there at 2:30 with the workshop? Because I can show up at 2:30, but if the information hasn't come yet, I can stand there and chat with you. But I can't teach you anything because I don't have the information yet. That's been the problem all along. It's not that we have the data before the fact. So much of it's released, and I think a big part of it now is because it's such high frequency that we all need the shield boost. I need you guys, just like you might need me to bring it through and put it in sequence for you. We need you to be able to amplify the shield enough so we can even reach it. So we'll try to stay on time. We will do our best with that because I've about had it. I've threatened to quit a few times, but it's like, yeah, right. And they kind of go, yeah, there she goes again. It's like when you have a contract like this, you don't quit. You can huff and puff and threaten and stomp around and it's like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't blame them anyway. It's frustrating for them too. It's like trying to get the universe down into the little part on an hourglass, little tiny, funnel. And it's difficult for them, and they have probably a lot harder job than it is here, trying to get the information here. So I guess, I do my venting, though. I've been encouraged to allow myself to express myself so it doesn't build up and I don't explode. But if any of you have been to workshops and you get really tired of the fact that who knows when it's going to start, it said it was going to start at this time, we'll try not to. We'll try to have it on time, or at least somewhere close to on time, because I'm getting tired. I'm getting exhausted, in fact, with that process. And if you're getting tired of that, I don't blame you at all. I'm right there with you. Hopefully, it will work out that way. Know that we are trying to get control of our time wave, because that's what it's about. It's about being able to ride this data in on the base pulse rhythms and the shields and the time waves that are running in the shields now. It's like these time waves are too small to hold these, where the data is. It's a very strange juxtaposition of time waves that don't quite blend really well. But they said that it will get easier as far as that goes. So I'm hoping this is one of the times it does. It would be really nice. As far as, I don't want to take up too much time here because Mac has to run those. Right? Right, because I want to make sure there's enough time for what? Another 5 minutes? Okay. Yeah, because right after here, there's a little bit of break. Is there a break for them? A comfort break? 10-minute comfort break? Okay, and that's then the activations start with the Belize set of shield activation techniques. And it is suggested, if you want to be able to get the greatest benefit out of the new Voyager codes, it is suggested that you participate with them. And if you fall asleep, as some people do, especially if you haven't worked with a lot of the techniques for a long time, it just means you transfer your consciousness into the astral level because you hit saturation point here. And that point of going, I'm out of here, will grow. It'll be a lot like right now. It might, be 5 minutes after you start, and you'll find after a few weeks or whatever, you can do like an hour, and you don't fall asleep anymore. Realize you're still getting the activation, even if you're just sitting there asleep. So don't worry about it. I remember that one time we were here, we had, 300 people? It was a huge workshop, 250 people? Over 200 people. And we were here till like 3 in the morning or something, and they were snoring on the floor. And bless them, Haz was reading and reading. I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you survived that one. But that was, we're not planning on doing one of those. All right, there are a bunch of new techniques being given. So I can hardly wait. Okay, now I just want to run down quick on Sunday. The first part of the workshop starts at 2, and in the morning there's a Logas demonstration group being set up. They're going to do Logas and like a full Logas session. Is that one? Yeah, that's a full Logas session, and probably a discussion about it a little bit. Are they doing that too? Yeah. Okay, so anybody that wants to do the Logas are a good beginning. There is a program coming called Transfigurations. I'm still putting my body through it to see what works, what's tolerable, and what just isn't. Right? What? Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I was just pointing out, and he's absolutely right with this. The Logas are highly recommended when you're doing this much shield activations in such a short period of time, because it will move the frequencies through your bodies and through your axiotonal lines much better, so it will stabilize the activations much better for you. So even if Logas aren't your thing, they will at least, we do suggest coming, because it will help to stretch things through through your body. And that, I'm getting the image of one thing it will do will stop this. Where you're kind of going, hello, how are you? Yeah. Because it can do that. Your physical body might not do it, but your fields will be doing that, right? The Logas help stretch it through the physical so it can anchor, and it can run into the planet more easily. So it is worth doing them. If you've never done them before, it's a good time to try them. What? Technique tremors, yes. It'll smooth out the TTs. Technique tremors. All right, let's see. The workshop after that starts at 2, and it runs to 7:30, but it has a 4:30 to 5 break. That's the first 2 sections. And part 1 is called Return of the Rashala. can hardly wait to find out what that is. They've called it Tune In and Turn On. The Rushate Spiral, Rushe Vortices, Chakras, Shield Encryption, the Akushate, and the Sixfold Rashala Chakra Awakening. And this is beginning preparation, again, for May 2005, which is the Kathara thing with the Etherdon Awakening. And we're doing the Morocco trip during that. We have technique 2 here it's called, this one, The Reign of Rama. It's a song, Son, P-S-O-N-N, which is interesting because the English translation came through first, and it's a pretty song. It actually is a song in English, right? But it's a activation of the portions of our shields, part of the portions of our shields that are connected to the temples of Rama. And we got the Anahazi translation, and that we can all trip over together because I haven't had any time to learn it. I got it down. I know the melody because I knew it in English, but I have no idea. I haven't looked at it after the first time. We took it down. So we can learn that, at least part of that, together. That has something to do with turning on the shield activations we're going to be doing with the codes later. The tones that are in that when it's sung in Anahazi will activate certain things that will allow the Voyager's codes to work immediately as opposed to later. Okay? Right? And that was live. That's Ma'a. He says hello. He just did one of his hello. He's really funny. It's fun. Anyway, let's see. Then we have the Akusha Manifesting an Introduction to the Art of Encryption, Technique 3. That ought to be fun. They're going to be easier ones. Then we get into Part 2. It's called Consciousness States, Time Wave Surfing, the Transcendental Passages, and Introduction to the Voyager's Trinity Time Wave Codes. And we have Technique 4, the Sixfold Voyager Code Induction, and that's chakra induction. Then we have, these are going to be interesting. Technique 5 is called the Blue Lotus Voyage, Passage through the D13 Monadic Flame, Journey to Kamalohati. Then Technique 6 is the Kamalohati Voyage, Passage through the Kamalohati Flame, Journey to the Adandrea. Technique 7 is the Adandra Voyage, Adandrea Voyage, Passage through the Adandrea Flame, Journey to the Adandra 360 Doorway. And there will be one more that we don't have the imagery for yet. They haven't given it to us yet because you can't use it until after the Etherdon Awakening. But that one will be the Adandra 360 Voyage, where we're going to go right into the flame. So what these are going to be like, I don't know. And I mean, they're really neat. They've run part of one of them with me, but they haven't taken me through there. We're all going to come through from the same frequency. I guess it said something about if they took me through them before the fact, that it would make it difficult for me to anchor it in to your shields. But if we all do it at once, we climb together with the frequencies, so it wouldn't, I won't be up here with the frequencies because I did them, and then it'll be harder to reach back down to the indigo shield to allow it to activate up. So we're going to all activate together. The codes, before we leave, I will show you really quick what the codes look like, just so you get an idea of how they're different. Oh, and by the way, after dinner tomorrow night, 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. a.m. Not to 12 p.m. It's till 12 a.m. in the morning. It's called Earth Evolution, Environmental Influences, and the Resurrection of Rama. And this gets into all the big drama stuff and Rama temples and all of those kind of things. But I do want you to, before I go, so you can get into your activation stage, I would like you to see some, and we'll start with 3 and work our way back. Don't show them together yet. That's going to be saved for the other day. Yeah, this one first. Yeah, they're a bit washed out on the thingies. Can you turn this down at all? Is there a way to adjust the light?
No, not the light intensity.
No.
Focus.
Yeah, it's actually that it printed. Part of it's that the Mylar is printed too light. I'll have to be careful of that next time we do this. Is there anybody near lights? Whatever. Anyway, this is one of them. We'll have to do that when we're running them. That's working our way down. That's the highest one. Huh? Oh, no, we don't want that one. That one goes with it. Excellent. This one, which is going to be the new cover for Kathara 1. Can you see that? Is it coming through? Yeah. Yeah, we have Sue Clemson to thank for the computer versions of these, where we do the artwork, and then she has, she's excellent with her computer art, and she's able to do the soft effects and the flame effects and those kind of things. The first one, which is the one closest to us here, it's actually 3 levels of activation in one. This one Sue hasn't had a chance to get yet. I had to do it in colored pencil. And she's going to do this one. This is going to be gorgeous when she gets done with it, with the blending and things. This is called the Blue Lotus Code. And it is passage through the monad. That is the first one, but there's 3 levels of activation. And they'll tell us more about what exactly, like each part represents a certain aspect of the anatomy. So we're going to get a bit of a breakout on those, so we see what parts are what. Okay, well, I just said give him a preview. I didn't think he was going to do that. All right. He wants me to show them something, how they work together. Yeah. I hope it shows on here as well as it did. I know. Need the other one, too. I want to show you something with this. It gets really interesting. And then at the end, we're going to do a compound activation. I hope this shows here on the light as well as it did on paper. Wait a minute. I had to line them up right. Yeah. Okay. They go almost 3-dimensional heliotalic. I have to get them lined up right, but they do line up perfectly. What was really funny is they were done at 3 different times without any knowledge of the other ones. In the same size. Yeah. Yeah, but they do line up perfectly. I have to get the register marks put on them. But we're going to do, at the end, we're going to do a compound activation. It's called a Trinity wave activation. This takes the spectrum into heliotalics, subharmonics, and it does something really strange. I mean, with the colors, they're just, you can't really see it good here. What's going to be lovely is, if Sue will bear with us, we're going to ask her, once she gets done with this one, if she will do the 3 of them as a print, where we get the large size ones, like the fine art prints, because it'll be absolutely gorgeous if we can get them. So I'm really hoping that she'll be willing to do that. And she's I don't know what we do without her, actually. I can only do so much in colored pencil, which is, this kind of stuff. There's a lot more subtlety and blending in it, you can see. But I wanted to get a preview of what Voyager's codes look like. They are the ones that have, I don't know how many are in each, but they're like thousands. Some of them hold thousands of different shield codes, Vecca combinations from both here in the Eka-Vecca shields here and also in the parallel, and also the bridging ones through the Rama passage. So this is the beginning. There are 12 of these, they've said, but we don't need the last one until 2012. So I guess we have a while for those to come through. I wonder if they're going to be like the others that tend to expand from one, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and like that gets small, and then there's more around it, and that gets small. I don't know. But I just thought I'd let you see them because I was excited about them. I thought they were really beautiful. So they're starting. So, Mac, what time you starting? 10-minute break? Okay, 10-minute break, and then we come back and we start with the Nadradon Awakening. Thanks for joining us.
I'm just going to review a little bit. Georgie's going to do the Mexico techniques tonight, but I just want to review some of the handouts that you've got, because what I would like you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is please, we asked to bring scissors, so I'm going to ask you to please do your cutting tonight and come to the workshop with these codes cut, and I'll explain how in just a moment. The very first one of the sheets that you have looks like this. This is from the UK series of techniques. All you're really going to need to do is cut these codes out. Okay? And just have them all separated by the time you come in tomorrow. Okay? That one's easy. By tomorrow morning, we'll be using those, and you're going to need to come ready to go with these things cut apart. Again, it's this one. Just cut them apart. Okay? This one requires, I'm actually going to put this on. You've got one like this, and these are the Rama codes from India. We'll get into an explanation tomorrow, so I'm not going to go into it tonight what they are. But what you're going to do tonight is pick codes that you resonate with. There's 2 separate codes here, and they are assembled. There's column A and column B. Column A, 1, 2, and 3. These codes are meant to fit on top of each other. It's kind of meant like this. There's also a column B. 2 separate codes. Pick one that you resonate with. And do not pick one from column A and one from column B. It's not a Chinese menu. If you go with column A, pick 1, 2, 3. If you go with column B, 1, 2, 3. We all clear on that? Veronica, you've got this look on your face. Tonight, cut them apart, but keep them separate. Keep column A separate from column B. Put them together. They're all 3 meant to interlace with each other and fit on top of each other. Find one that you resonate with more. No right or wrong, no code's better than the other. Just one you're going to find resonate more with. And that's all you need to bring is the one that you resonate with. And you do not go like this. One here, one here, one here. Okay. Shauna, get with the program. Either A or B for each one. Okay. Just for you, okay. Yes. A, 1, 2, 3, or B, 1, 2, 3. Okay? Put them together. All right? No, you're okay. 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 Just, it's either or. So, and then eventually, all you need to really bring is one of these, one little square. Actually, you've got a whole page full of them. It was just easier to do it this way. Because when these 3 codes are put together, they fit on top of here. Okay? Pardon? You should have one of those in your packet. You've got 3. Okay. All righty. So, without further ado, we're going to get started with the Mexico techniques. And where did Georgie go? There she is. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, just a mix them up. One from A or B. You can do it. Okay? I was not there in India when we did it, and I was reading the paper, but you can go A as long as you have 1, 2, or 3. It can be from A or B. Okay? So you can do a Chinese menu. I apologize. Thanks, Georgie. Okay. And, oh yes, one other thing. Tomorrow there is going to be, the best thing to do when we work with these codes is to have them glued together. So we're going to have glue sticks out on that table tomorrow so you can just kind of glue them together. Okay?
Hello, so you get an Australian talking tonight. There's not many Australians here. But I'll talk properly so that you can actually understand me. But we're going to phone home first. Yeah, there's another Australian, I know. Okay. So are we ready? I'll say 1, 2, 3 so you can be ready. And we'll all do it together. I won't yell into this while we're doing that. Okay. 1, 2, 3. In the name of Oyster. By vectors in How ete unise eshadur. Duete niwa. Lectore ithwa. Duete niwa. Lectore ithwa. Duete niwa. Asia interdore, to Asia interdore. So we're going to go through the 4 spheres of Ra etheric body activation, part A. The first phase is the eyes of Ra, then we have the heart of Ra, seat of Ra and the throne of Ra, and then we're going to go through the Nadrodon cell and radius line activation, part B. We're going to have just a little bit of a break before we do the radon etheric atomic duct complex, Tilea breathing and Atmos regeneration exercise. It's the one where we do all the logos in between, but we're not going to do the logos. We're just going to have a quick walk around instead, because there's not really that much room to do all the logos in here. So everyone can see that code, the Le'adore Uneste Unhadre code. So we're going to place or intend that the Le'adore Uneste Unhadre code is at the Ra center at chakra 3. We're going to be imprinting the Ra center with the etheric signature of the Le'adore Uneste Unhadre code. And although before this technique some of you may not have done in Kathara level 2 and 3, where we did the sequence where we activated something called the emerald storage vessel, just intend that you know and you have an emerald crystal storage vessel that houses the Le'atore caverns, etheric hologram sphere. So with this code, the Le'adore Uneste Unhadre code, at the Ra center at chakra 3, I'm going to call to mind the emerald crystal storage vessel that houses the Le'atore caverns, etheric hologram sphere. And we're going to mentally intend or visualize that the emerald crystal at the center of the emerald crystal at the center of the lotus, the 48-petaled lotus of the Le'adore Uneste Unhadre code. After visualizing this, we're going to bring our palms into the prayer position at the Azure. We're We're going to inhale slowly and deeply from the Ra, drawing the 48-petal lotus with the emerald crystal centre and the Adore Uneste Unihadre code imprint into the Ra centre and upward into the pineal gland, being aware that as you do this, the imprint of the code and the emerald crystal travel upwards to the pineal and they become one, encrypting the Adore Uneste Unihadre code into the emerald crystal, pausing at the top of the inhale, and then exhaling gently on a horizontal projection line forwards and backwards from chakra 6 at the pineal gland, expanding the L'Attore cavern's 6-foot holographic sphere outward all around you, while giving the mental command, eyes of Ra open. Then bringing the hands out of the prayer position during the exhale to the sides of the body in the lotus touch position. Sorry, don't bend my little finger a bit. Now with the encrypted emerald crystal at the centre of the 48-petal lotus at the pineal gland, exhale. We've done that, sorry. We're on to phase 2. Just breathe normally in between these steps because they're a little bit too long to keep to the inhale and exhale that I'm explaining. Now take a long horizontal 2-point inhale breath along the chakra 6 forward, front and back rear projection line back into the emerald crystal at the pineal gland while intending or mentally commanding the 6-foot eyes of Ra, L'Attore cavern's holographic spheres remains extended all around you. Continue the inhale, drawing the emerald crystal and its 48-petal lotus downward with its last part in the inhale into the heart chakra. Hold the inhale at the heart chakra briefly with the emerald crystal stationed at the chakra 4 and bring both hands to the fingers into the lotus touch position, gently touching chakra 4 and keeping the emerald crystal and the 48-petaled lotus in the heart chakra. Exhale slowly, gently on a forward horizontal projection line from chakra 4, giving the mental command, heart of Ra, awaken. Use the exhale breath to expand the L'Attore cavern's holographic sphere outward from chakra 4 all around you so it becomes a 12-foot holographic sphere. Just imagine it as the diameter of your body length, 2 body lengths. Now inhale backward along the horizontal projection line into chakra 4 while intending that the 12-foot holographic sphere remains expanded from chakra 4. Continue the inhale using the last part of the inhale to draw the emerald crystal and 48-petal lotus from the chakra 4 downward into the Yumbi. Hold the breath at the Yumbi and at the top of the inhale with the emerald crystal and the 48-petal lotus stationed there. While holding inhale, place the lotus touch fingers now on the Yumbi and exhale on a 2-point forward-backward projection line from the Yumbi while leaving the emerald crystal petal at the Yumbi, using the exhale to expand the L'Attore cavern's holographic sphere outward to become a 24-foot diameter sphere all around you, giving the mental command, seat of Ra, awaken. Inhale back along the Yumbi horizontal projection line into the Yumbi and then using the last part of the inhale to draw the emerald crystal 48-petaled lotus down to a point in the central vertical column directly across from the top of the knees, just above the kneecaps. Inhale briefly with the emerald crystal 24 lotus stationed at the knees and release the fingers from the lotus position at the Yumbi and allow your arms to relax beside you. And on the exhale, on a horizontal forward-backwards axis from the knee point between your knees and the central vertical current, leaving the emerald crystal 48-petaled lotus at the knee, use the exhale to expand the L'Attore cavern sphere outward from the knee point until it expands to a 48 diameter sphere, 8 body lengths all around you, giving the mental command, throne of Ra, awaken. As the knee point sphere expands, inhale back along the knee point horizontal projection line while intending the 48-foot holographic sphere remains expanded all around you. Complete the inhale at the knee point and take several natural resting breaths, thank God for that, from the knee point while the emerald crystal and lotus remain stationed there. Continue to break, continue to have a few breaths in and out. And now simply leave the emerald crystal 48-petal lotus within the knee point. And when you're ready, give the mental command, throne of Ra, sustain. Just with keeping your focus still on the emerald crystal at the centre of the 48-petalled lotus stationed at the knee point. Just take several deep, relaxed breaths while reaching this focus. We're going to now do the phase 5 or crown of Ra activation. This is part of the Nadradon cell and radius line activation part B. During any of these instructions, it's a good idea to take a few small breaths in between the main breaths that we're doing. Sometimes they're a little long. So focusing now with your attention on the emerald crystal at the centre of the 48-petalled lotus stationed at the knee point. Now inhale from the knee point and hold the inhale at the knee point for a moment. Then we're going to rapidly exhale a single point breath from the knee point downwards, using the exhale to push the emerald crystal 48-petaled lotus rapidly down to the Mahadra at earth core. Then we're going to quickly inhale again as soon as the emerald crystal enters the Mahadra, using a strong rapid inhale to draw the emerald crystal all the way up to chakra 14, 36 inches above your head. And the top of the inhale, when the emerald crystal enters chakra 14, hold the breath. Now, whilst giving the mental command, raise a Ra unfold, release the inhale internally in chakra 14. Release the inhale, release the exhale internally into the emerald crystal at chakra 14, and then breathe easily from chakra 14. Now observe or imagine that the emerald crystal at chakra 14 slowly but steadily ignites into a brilliant golf ball-sized spherical starburst with Manu emerald green, pale gold and silver, and pale violet silver pink heliotalic rays emanating outward from the interior centre point. And breathing gently now from chakra 14, observe that the emerald crystal starburst is now communicating energetically with the four Ettore holographic spheres expanded around you. And as this communication takes place, observe as each of the four Ettore spheres also begin to radiate beautiful heliotalic starburst rays of pale emerald green, pale gold and silver, and pale violet silver pink, until the four holographic spheres become a set of radiating, shimmering starbursts, one 6 foot in diameter, one 12 foot in diameter, one 24 and one 48 foot in diameter. This is now phase 6, the staff of Ra. Inhale a 48-petal lotus breath now from chakra 14, holding the breath, and we're going to then rapidly exhale, using the exhale to push the starburst emerald crystal downward all the way to chakra 14 to enter earth core at the completion of the exhale. When the starburst emerald crystal enters the Mahadra, quickly inhale again, using the rapid inhale to draw the emerald crystal upward to the point in your central vertical column that lies directly between your feet. Hold the inhale to directly between your feet as the emerald crystal enters this point. The point between the feet is located on the density 1 Nadradon cell center seal, and it is called the Nadra key or the Nadra key. Continue holding the breath, and at the top of the inhale at the Nadra key, then forcefully exhale into the center of the starburst emerald crystal at the Nadra key, while giving the mental command, Staff of Ra receive. Then return to gentle, relaxed breathing from the feet point, Nadra key. Now we're going to observe the awakening of the etheric atomic pillar of power. Breathe easy while observing that the Nadra key feet point opens around the starburst emerald crystal, and the starburst emerald crystal enters, then disappears through this Nadra key doorway at the feet point. When the starburst emerald crystal disappears, a gentle internal vibration begins spreading from the Nadra key point, upward and downward through the central vertical current. As this vibration extends to simultaneously enter both the Adrana at chakra 14 and the Mahadra at earth core, a beautiful transformation takes place within the 4 Le'Atori holographic starburst spheres around you. And as the Eka Le'Atori caverns holograms merge with their Le'Adore parallel Eka twin spheres, notice that as the Adrana above and the Mahadra below receive this Nadra key vibration, that the Ra center in Chakra 3 releases a brilliant flash of gold, pale gold, silver Eka Iane light, and in response, the long-dormant etheric ethos Ka center in Chakra 2, down in the sacral center, releases a brilliant flash of pale violet, silver pink, parallel Eka Adonai light after the Ka center flashes, and Chakra 2 and 3 open and then expand and merge through the Iumbi ethos flame as the Dimension 2 Grual control Nadradon cell emerges from the dense Dimension 2 Nadraki center seal in the Iumbi flame. The flame expands into the center seed seals in Chakra 2 and 3, linking the Ra and Ka centers and their chakras together through the pale violet, silver pink D2 Nadradon cell. As the D2 Nadradon cell awakens, the 4 Le'Atori cavern holographic spheres around you all flash brilliantly. First, a beautiful Iane pale gold and silver flash, then an iridescent Adonai pale violet silver pink flash. And the 4 spheres merge into one huge pale violet silver pink holographic starburst sphere that extends outwards for 90 feet in all directions around you. Observe and try to feel now the reality of the Nadradon cell activation taking place within you. Listen to your inner hearing to hear the chorus of the music of the spheres that begins releasing into the atomic structure once the etheric dimensions 1 to 5 Nadra sheath around the D1 atomic pillar releases through Nadradon cell activation. As the 4 holographic spheres merge, the Nadra atomic sheath barrier dissolves, preparing the atomic structure for pillar of power activation and Tilea breathing. Observe now that as these activations unfold within your etheric body, that your 24 Particum lotus points all become pale violet silver pink starburst spheres with an emerald flame containing pale gold and silver light within them. As the inner pillar 24 lotus points turn on, the Adonai light of the 24 Loti points of your D1.5 through D11.5 photosphere turn on. This is then followed by the 24 Lotum points of your D12.5 to 0.5 logosphere. And finally, followed by the 24 Lota points of your D13.5 lotus sphere and primal light field. Now, as the 24 Lota points activate, the long dormant radius lines connecting through the Loti point sets and into the etheric atomic center pillar, they also turn on, preparing the crystal body and manifest anatomy for pillar of power activation, release of the sextant pin, rising of the ethos, and return of Tilea breathing. Once the radius lines activate through these 96 Particum Loti points, the Density 1 Nadradon cell emerges from the feet point, Density 1 Nadra key seal, expanding a sphere of pale violet silver pink starburst upwards to the lower calves and the legs, and downwards to the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet. This opens the Maharic shield center seal to the Eka Matradon cell pillar of power flow. The feet chakra seed seals open and initiate a L'Adore current flow within the etheric atomic body, setting the carrier wave through which the ethos etheric pillar of power can rise. once the sextan pin releases. This reinstates the potential of natural eternal life, Tilea breathing and progressive seed atom recharge. Once the activation is completed, the Nadrodon cell remains activated and ready to receive transmutation of its unnatural buckyball radiation matrix harness through progressive application of Pillar of Power ethos rising Kathara technologies. Until ethos on and ethos pillar rising technologies are employed, breathing through the Nadrodon cell energies should be done only through the protective filter of the Ra center. Once the sextant pin is released and the ethos pillar ascent is initiated, etheric atomic healing, recharge and amplification can be done by Tilea breathing directly through the Nadrodon cell and the Pillar of Power. Now we're going to move on to the Tilea Nadrodon complex electrical activation, which is phase 1, the Ka center activation, and it's called Firing the Rods of Ra and Ka. Again, we're going to use the Le'adore Un Esta Yunhadre code. And we're going to be doing several phases where we will be, instead of doing 3 Loga sets 3 times, we'll be just doing a quick stand up and maybe a shuffle, because I'm not sure that many of you can walk very far. The front row can, I guess. Everyone ready? Sounds like it. Okay. So we're going to inhale a 48-petaled encrypted lotus breath at chakra 3 with this code at chakra 3, the Ra center. So first we can imagine this code at the Ra center and the 48-petaled lotus at the Ra center. So inhale now, 48-petaled encrypted lotus breath at the chakra 3 Ra center, using the inhale to draw the lotus down to the density Nadraki seal at the feet point, which is in the central vertical current in the space or midpoint between the feet, and hold this breath for a few seconds. Then forcefully exhale a 2-point horizontal left-right projection breath from the Nadraki point, using the breath to push the encrypted lotus into the ethos seed atom stationed at the Nadraki, then outward through the ethos rod, giving the mental command on a left-right projection, Rod of Ka awaken. Then inhale a single point breath from the Nadraki and ethos seed atom. Hold the breath at the Nadraki center briefly. Then we're going to forcefully exhale, using the using the breath to push the 48-petal lotus from the Nadraki at the feet point downward into the Mahadra earth core as you complete the exhale. When the lotus enters the Mahadra at the bottom of the exhale, immediately inhale forcefully, using the breath to draw the lotus up to your azure. Hold the breath at the azure, and immediately raise and extend your arms both upwards and outwards from your side. You might need to twist a bit in your chair. Then exhale a 2-point horizontal breath from the azure, right-left breath across from the azure, leaving the 48-petaled lotus station at the azure, while using the exhale to push the 2 currents of pale violet, silver pink Le'adore frequency from the azure seed atom outward along the Particum density rod and arms to the monadic balls at the rod endpoints just beyond the fingertips, giving the mental command, Rod of Ra awaken. Then inhale and hold a 2-point breath back into the azure from the rod endpoints just beyond the fingertips, while bringing your arms down into a resting position on your lap. Sit up straight while holding the inhale at the azure. Then we're going to bend forwards and place the palms of your hands on the top of the feet chakras, on the top of your feet. Left palm over the top of your left foot, right palm over the top of your right foot. Fingers a little bit beyond the toes. Now exhale this breath a powerful 2-point horizontal left-right projection from the Azure down the Ettore arm cords, through the palms into the foot chakras, and then horizontally outward. The current flowing from the left arm through the left foot to the left side, and the same on the right side. Now, staying in this position, breathe gently for a moment from the Azure, keeping your hands on the foot chakras and sensing and feeling for a wave-like vibration extending across the ethos rod at the feet. Then observe or sense or feel that as this vibration extends into the arms, Azure, and then throughout the entire body. The vibration feels like a series of sort of rippling, circular, rhythmic, cyclic waves of greater and greater intensity moving through your fields. It's as if you were in a pond in which a pebble had just been dropped. With your hands remaining on your feet, breathe gently from the Azure whilst this etheric Adore wave intensifies until it reaches its peak, at which point, after 60 to 90 seconds, the intensity begins to ebb, and then until a still point is reached and the vibrating wave ceases. After the etheric Adore wave ebbs to stillness, you can sit up very slowly and bringing your palms to rest on your knees, keeping your eyes closed, and breathe gently from the Azure, calming and stabilizing the fields. The instruction here is to remain still and breathe slowly if any dizziness occurs. Instructions are also to not move physically. Obviously, you're going to be breathing. We're not going to be moving anywhere until the dizziness subsides. And it is that we have to take a 15-minute break if necessary and if the dizziness does not subside. With your eyes closed, I'll ask you in a few moments for people to put up their hands if they're still dizzy, because we can wait. So is anyone still dizzy? They could just put up their hands. Just a bit higher. Is anyone? Good. We'll just wait a little longer. Just feeling the frequency through the body. You just raise your hands if you're still a bit dizzy. And while we're waiting for the dizziness to subside, we just breathe from a 48-point axis from the Ra center. And any dizziness now. Once your biosystem has stabilized, we can inhale a gentle 48-petal lotus breath from the Ra center, holding the breath, inhale briefly, then exhaling forcefully, using the breath to push the new 48-petal lotus down from the down to the Mahadra at Earth core from the Ra center. When the new 48-petaled lotus enters the Mahadra, inhale quickly at the Mahadra, using the inhale to draw the 48-petaled lotus upward and into the Ka center at chakra 2, the sacral chakra. Then exhale rapidly at the Ka center, using the exhale to push a starburst of pale violet silver pink frequency outward and throughout the Ka center, chakra 2, giving the mental command, flame of Ka, awaken. Now breathe gently from the Ra center for a moment. Then inhale and exhale gently into the Nadra key at the feet point, thereafter resuming a gentle breathing pattern, but with your breath focused directly from the Nadra key point. Continue to breathe gently and continuously from the Nadra key point while taking a break of no more than 5 minutes. And after this point, we would normally go on to do logas number 1, 2 and 3, repeating each loga 3 times in sequence, while breathing from the Nadra key throughout. And when we have finished the logas, normally we would then allow at least 15 minutes rest before proceeding, but since we're just doing the little walk around or stand around or jiggle around, we'll take a 5-minute break. And still breathe from the Nadra key, thank you. Talaya Nadradon complex electrical activation. Third time. So we're going to do the Talaya Nadradon complex electrical activation phase 2, activating the etheric lotus arc sets. We're going to be arc breathing and cycling the petal arcs. Okay, next time we have a bit of a break, we'll just probably do it a little bit quieter, because it kind of breaks the frequency a little when we start sort of having a party. So we're going to sit comfortably and take several natural breaths from the Nadra key at the feet point. I'm going to be using the 48-point encrypted lotus again. So the lotus is here again, the Adore un Este Yunhadre code. Now we're going to inhale a 48-point encrypted lotus phase 1 breath that we did previously from the Nadra key up into the Ra center at chakra 3 and holding the breath at chakra 3, the Ra center, and then we're going to forcefully exhale using the breath to expand multiple rays of pale violet silver pink Adore frequency outward and through the Ra center. Exhale. And now observing that the Ra center releases a starburst flash of pale violet silver pink light. Inhale now into the lotus at the Ra center, and on down, bring the inhale down into the Ka center in chakra 2, holding the breath at the Ka center in chakra 2, the sacral chakra. Then exhale forcefully from the Ka center using the breath to expand multiple rays of pale golden silver Ettore frequency outward and through the Ka center. And now observe that the Ka center releases a starburst flash of pale golden silver Ettore light. Now inhale from the Iumbi point, which is 1 to 2 inches below the navel, using the breath to draw both Ra and Ka centers, chakra 2 and 3, together to form a Biveka fold within the ethos flame at the Iumbi. Now when you're doing this, imagine as the 2 vertically overlapping spheres within an Akasha-shaped flame. Then you're going to exhale at the Iumbi and observe as the chakras 2 and 3, Ra and Ka centers, expand back out into their original positions from the Iumbi and leaving a pale violet silver pink Ra and a golden silver Ka crystal within the Umbi ethos flame. Observe now that these two crystals fuse together in a Biveka fold. Now inhale the fused Biveka Kara crystals from the Umbi upward to the Azure and hold the breath at the Azure. Now with the Ra-Ka crystal at the Azure, we're going to exhale forcefully on a 6-petaled lotus axis from the Azure, observing as the Ra-Ka crystal replicates to form 6 Ra-Ka crystals, each projecting out along one of the 6 lotus projection lines. While doing this, you've got an original Ra-Ka crystal remaining in the Azure. So we have one in the centre of the 6-petaled lotus projections and 6 Ra-Ka crystals out on the lotus petal axis lines. Now inhale gently, drawing each of the 6 Kara crystal replicas back simultaneously along their respective axis projection lines and into merger with the 7th original Kara crystal at the Azure. Notice that during this gentle inhale that the 2 top diagonal 45-degree axis lotus petal arcs and the 2 bottom diagonal 45-degree axis lotus petal arcs begin to contract and move inward towards the stationary upper and lower vertical petals. So they're closing in. On the full inhale into the Azure, the diagonal petals arcs are folded into the upper and lower vertical petals, leaving only the vertical axis upper and lower petal arcs remaining. Exhale gently from the Azure, using the breath to push the 7 Kara crystals from the Azure downward to the Nadra key point, between the feet. Notice as you exhale, the 4 diagonal axis lotus petal arcs expand back outward, again to their 45-degree axis angle. Inhale gently from the Nadra key point, keeping the 7 Kara crystals stationed there. Exhale and inhale, breathing into the Nadra key, noticing that the 4 diagonal axis lotus petal arcs around you again contract in with the inhale, folding into the 2 vertical petal arcs. So we're going to be breathing gently from the Nadra key point, directly observing or intending that on each Nadra key inhale, the diagonal petal arcs contract into the vertical petal arcs, and on each exhale, the diagonal petal arcs expand and return to their 45-degree axis projection line positions. So continue these inhale and exhale, moving the 45-degree axis projection lines in towards the vertical petal arcs on the inhale and expanding them out to their 45-degree axis position line positions on the exhale. You are encouraged to play with, in brackets, or in inverted commas rather, the Nadra key inhale-exhale, varying the speed of the breathing while keeping the diagonal lotus petal arcs expanding and contracting in synchronization with each inhale and exhale breath. This is called cycling the petal arcs. Continue to breathe this way gently and continuously from the Nadra key. And at this point, we would normally move on to doing the logas or the frequency breathing movements, numbers 4, 5 and 6, plus 7, 8 and 9, repeating each loga 3 times in sequence, while breathing the cycling of the petal arcs from the Nadra key throughout. Instead, we will take a quick 5-minute break where we probably tone down the social skills a little and try and keep that frequency that we're holding now. It may only be a 2 or 3 minute break. And while you're having a break, you can practice breathing and cycling of the lotus petal arcs from the Nadra key while you're standing. Called Ethos On. Number 1, completing the ancient third, 1/3 inhale. Now, there's a lot of explanation in this one while you're taking a breath in. And it's not only while you're taking one breath in, it's while you're taking a third of a breath in. So what you might be able to do is, while you're taking a breath in, we sort of divide the breaths into thirds, and we bring a rod that's in a horizontal plane upward from the Nadra key, and we're bringing it right up to the level of the Azure. So we bring it in sort of a series of 3 in-breaths. So it's like one bit of the in-breath, another bit, and a third bit. So while you're doing the 1/3, then listening to the instruction, you could actually just take a few little breaths, in between the big breaths, if you know what I mean. I find that sort of does work a little bit. So you've actually got your focus on the position where that 1/3 breath is supposed to be. Maybe at the mid-calf point, at the knee point, or then the mid-thigh point. But even if you take a few little, very shallow, let's say surface breaths, in between those main 1/3 inhales, we might get by without sort of toppling off the chair. Not that I'm doing it at the same time as talking. Okay. So we're going to inhale a 48-point lotus breath from the Nadra key up into the Ra center at chakra 3, then on up into the Azure. And this is engaging the Tilea breathing cycle. So inhale up to the Azure and hold. Then we're going to exhale rapidly from the Azure, pushing the lotus from the Azure down to the Mahadra center at Earth core. Now we're going to inhale rapidly, but using the breath when the lotus enters the Mahadra to draw 1/3 of the ethos rod from the feet upward through what's called the released Greenwich reversed ethos 1/3 density rod at the lower calves. Linking now, so the rod moving up to the lower calves in a 1/3 inhale breath, linking the natural 1/3 density ethos rod with the tilted Greenwich reversed ethos 1/3 density rod as the natural 1/3 density ethos rod ascends. Now, after taking a few little breaths with this 1/3 inhale, continue the main inhale and observe and intend that the Greenwich right ethos rod at the lower calves quickly shifts 113.5 degrees clockwise from an axis that aligns through the right shoulder out the left breast to an axis that aligns straight across your shoulders. And then with the 1/3 natural rod, and this aligns then with the natural 1/3 rod. So you've taken a 2/3 in-breath in, and you're just taking small breaths while you're listening. Thus, the two 1/3 ethos density 1 rods merge to form a 2/3 ethos rod ascending. Now complete this main inhale by drawing the 2/3 ethos rod up to the mid-thigh, the density 1 Iumbi, and hold the inhale, this is the full inhale, with the 2/3 ethos rod at the mid-thigh, density 1 Iumbi level, where the ethos K1 density 1 signet intersects with the density 1 Rajna, Loti Padakam position, which is chakra 10 above the head. So thus completing this final 1/3 ancient inhale breath that has been stifled within the planetary body since 5.5 million years ago. Holding the breath at the top of this lotus breath 1/3 inhale at the center of the mid-thigh position. Now sense or observe and intend that the 2/3 ethos density 1 rod at the mid-thigh now jumps as the density ethos Iumbi flame and density Padakam Azure flame sparks the second 145 charge subharmonic spark at the Azure. Now just observe that the density 1 2/3 ethos rod automatically jumps from the mid-thigh now to the Azure, bringing the Padakam density 1 Loti rod and 2/3 ethos density 1 rod into merger at the Azure, fully aligning the density 1 Padakam Loti and the ethos Kathara grids. Now the ancient first 45 subharmonic spark and new 45 subharmonic spark release a new 90 subharmonic charged spark pulse into the Padikam Loti seed atom, thus completing the ancient exhale-inhale last breath. And just breathing from this position at the azure. We now, when you're ready, exhale rapidly from the azure using the breath to push the 2/3 density 1 rod down to the Mahadra Earth core, mentally counting exhale 1. And then shift now your attention to the D3 ethos rod stationed at the feet, at your feet, as the full exhale is complete. And now again do the first 1/3 inhale breath, using the breath to draw the D3 ethos rod from the feet point to direct the density 1 and ethos rod. So the inhale now from the feet point to the center of the calves, engaging the D3 ethos K1 signet and the D3 Padikam Iyumbi. Pause here, and as I said, do those little small breaths so we don't faint. Pause on the third inhale with the D3 ethos rod at the center of the calves. Then continue this inhale to the second 1/3 of the inhale breath, using the second 1/3 to draw the D3 ethos rod from the center of the calves to about 1 inch above the knee point, just above the knee caps. At this position, after the second third inhale, this merges the D3 ethos Iyumbi and D3 Padikam Iyumbi ethos flames, releasing the first 45 subharmonic spark at the Iyumbi into the pillar of power. Pause briefly at the top of this third inhale with the D3 ethos just above the knees, and this is where we receive the first spark at the Iyumbi. Now when you're ready, continue this inhale, drawing the breath, using the full inhale to draw the D3 ethos rod from just above the top of the knees to the Iyumbi. This merges the D3 ethos Iyumbi flame with the D3 Padikam azure flame and releases the second spark at the azure, the 45 subharmonic azure spark. Now pause briefly at the third 1/3 inhale breath with the D3 rod at the Padikam Iyumbi to receive the second spark at the azure. Now before finally expanding the lungs, keeping the rod at the Iyumbi, complete the third by expanding the lungs fully, and then holding at the top of the inhale, mentally count inhale 1. Then you'll see the D3 Iyumbi and D3 Padikam azure flame spark, forming the second spark at the azure. The D3 rod then automatically jumps from the D3 Padikam Iyumbi to the D3 Padikam azure. Here now, the two 45 subharmonic sparks release a 90 charged subharmonic spark from the pillar of power and into the Padikam seed atom, pushing the D3 ethos Kathara grid rapidly down into the exhale position. So now exhale rapidly from the azure, using the breath to ride the D3 ethos grid down from the azure to the feet point. Mentally count exhale 2. Pause at the bottom of the exhale with the D3 ethos rod at the feet. And we're going to begin the inhale and contraction of this number 2 cycle by inhaling the first third breath of the inhale number 2 from the Nadra key, drawing the D3 ethos rod from the feet point to the center of the calves. Now give the mental command, ethos engage. With the ethos rod positioned at the calves, pause, and then continue the second inhale from the calf point and draw the ethos rod up to the knee point, just above the kneecaps, giving the mental command, Iyumbi spark 1. With the ethos rod positioned at the knee point, pause for a moment and then inhale again to receive the Iyumbi spark, moving the D3 ethos rod up from the knee point to the Iyumbi, giving the mental command, azure spark 2. With the D3 ethos rod at the D3 Padikam Iyumbi, pause for a moment and receive the azure spark 2. Now with the D3 rod at the Padikam Iyumbi, complete the third inhale, now filling the lungs to capacity and holding for a moment at the top of the inhale as the rod automatically jumps now from the Iyumbi to the azure, bringing the D3 ethos and D3 Padikam grids and rods into full alignment, releasing the 90 charge subharmonic spark pulse into the particum seed atom. Give the mental command, inhale 2, jump, spark, pulse, ethos ascend. So inhale 2, jump, spark, pulse, ethos ascend. Mentally count, inhale 2. Now rapidly exhale from the azure, using the breath to ride the D3 Kathara grid down into full expansion as the D3 ethos rod descends to the feet point again. Mentally count, exhale 3. This completes the inhale contraction. Oh no, we're going to begin again the inhale contraction number 3 cycle, repeating the steps 11 to 15 that we just did on the inhale. We're going to complete 2 more of these inhale and exhale breaths. So again, inhale the rod from the Nadra key into the calf point, and then inhale the next 1/3 up to the knee point, just above the kneecaps, and then inhale the next one up to the umbi. And at this point, the rod automatically jumps into alignment with the azure, holding at the azure, and then exhaling the rod down to the feet point. And the next breath, bring the rod from the feet point up to the knee, the mid-calf point, then the knee point just above the kneecaps, then the iumbi, and as it comes into the iumbi, the rod automatically jumps from the iumbi into the azure, and then exhale rapidly down to the feet point again. This completes, and we do one more. So then we, at the knee point, 1/3 inhale up to the calves, bringing the rod up to the calves. The next 1/3 up to the knee point. And the final 1/3 up to the umbi. And as it enters the umbi, the rod jumps to the azure. And then we exhale down to the feet point. Actually, that's the 5th one, so we'll do one more. So bring up the rod again to the mid-calf point. Then the knee point, just above the kneecaps. Then the umbi. And as it enters the umbi, the rod automatically jumps into the azure. And then we exhale the rod down to the feet point. After completing one full Talea 6 cycle, one cycle of 6 3-pause breaths in which the particum seed atom receives a 180 charge harmonic spark pulse, and this initiates Nadra seal release and Adore flame current atomic etheric activation. This also sets in motion the automatic activation of the Talea 12 cycle, or 36 3-pause breaths, through which the electrical activation reaches its tharo peak to run full harmonic 180 Adore flame charge. Now, at the end of the 6th exhale-inhale cycle, we pause at the top of the 6th and final inhale, and when we do this, we're going to forcefully exhale from the azure to the Mahadra at earth core. So bring the rod from the feet point up to the mid-calf point, then up to the knee point, then up to the umbi, and the rod jumps to the azure, and now this time we're going to exhale forcefully the rod right down to the Mahadra at earth core. And this returns the D3 ethos rod from the azure to the feet point as the final exhale descends. And now returning to natural, gentle breathing from the Nadra key point between the feet. We're going to give the mental command, Nadradon Adore Fire. And continue now breathing from the Nadra key point. We would normally move on to Logas 10, 11 and 12. And then run 3 sets of the Loga sequences while breathing the D3 ethos rod, inhaling, and this is why you're doing the Logas, which we're not going to do at this point in time. But as we do the logas this time, the breathing pattern is what we just did. We're inhaling and drawing the rod up from the feet point to the azure, and then exhaling the rod down to the feet point. That's the breathing that we would now do. And we're just going to take our little 3 to 5 minute break before moving on to the Talea Nadrodon complex electrical activation phase 4, pulling the poison pin. Again, we have a few sort of prolonged inhale exhales, but not quite as long. So again, when you're taking the main inhales, just take a few little surface breaths so you get the oxygen flowing and all the other stuff. Dear. Oh, well, it's only 10:30. We've just completed a full 6-cycle Talea breath to spark the seed atom with the 180 charge Adore harmonic spark pulse for the Nadra 0.5 1.5 seal release and initiation of the Nadra Adore 180 flame current. So we're going to now inhale again a slow, deep 48-petaled lotus breath into the azure, drawing the 48-petaled lotus down from the azure to the Ra center. At the inhale, as the inhale completes, hold the inhale at the Ra center briefly. Then we're going to exhale firmly on a single point axis using exhale to push the 48-petaled lotus from the Ra center down into the Nadra key point. Holding the breath at the full exhale with the lotus key at the Nadra key point, call to mind now the 7 Kathara bivector crystals stored in the Nadra key and inhale gently into the Nadra key using the breath to draw the cluster of 7 Kathara crystals into the center point of the 48-petaled lotus at the Nadra key. Then exhale gently into the Nadra key, keeping the lotus and the Kathara crystal cluster center at the Nadra key. And we're going to run a set of 3 ethos on breaths. Inhale at the Nadra key point and draw the D3 ethos rod at the feet all the way up and into the azure. This fully aligns the Padikam rod at the top of the inhale. And pause at the inhale, then exhale firmly from the azure using the breath to push the D3 ethos rod down to the feet in synchronization with the full exhale. Pause briefly at the exhale, then repeat the last inhale-exhale sequence twice more. So in, breathing the rod, bringing the rod up from the feet point to the azure, then exhaling the rod down to the feet, and then inhaling the rod from the feet up to the azure, and exhaling the rod down to the feet point. On this last exhale, notice that the Kathara 7 crystal cluster in the Nadra key begins to shimmer and glow with a pale silvery aquamarine D13.5 lotus light. And also a vibration wave begins to emerge from the Nadra key into both feet. Inhale and exhale gently from the Nadra key now, and observe or intend that on each exhale the Kathara crystal cluster aquamarine light grows brighter and its corresponding vibration stronger. Inhale into the Nadra key point, using the breath to contract the 7 Kathara crystals in the cluster together to form 1 Kathara bivector crystal in the Nadra key. Holding the inhale, we're going to exhale firmly into the center of the consolidated Kathara crystal at the Nadra key. We're going to observe or intend that the 2 fused units of the Kathara bivector crystal suddenly shatter into a starburst of beautiful pale silvery aquamarine. So exhale. Inhale again at the Nadra key, using the breath to draw the aquamarine lotus starburst into a singular point of radiating aquamarine light into the Nadra key. And now observe or intend that the lotus starburst point of light now solidifies into a single, small, beautiful aquamarine lotus crystal within the Nadra key point. Inhaling again at the Nadra key point, use the breath to draw the aquamarine lotus crystal up from the Nadraki point to the Ra center in chakra 3. This is the solar plexus, and hold at the top of the inhale with the lotus crystal at the Ra center. Then you're going to exhale gently from the Ra center, using the breath to gently push the aquamarine lotus crystal from the center of the Ra center backwards into the chakra 2 Ka center, the sacral center. Hold at the bottom of the exhale into the Ka center or the chakra 2 center, with the lotus crystal now at the Ka center. Inhale now 48 petaled lotus into the D13.5 aquamarine lotus crystal in the Ka center or chakra 2 center. Hold the inhale briefly, and then we're going to firmly but gently exhale on a single point horizontal axis towards the back of you, using the breath to push the lotus crystal from the chakra 2 sacral area backwards and horizontally into the tailbone, and then down vertically into chakra 1 seed seal and the tip of the tailbone, coccyx. As the aquamarine lotus crystal enters the coccyx, observe or intend that the lotus crystal begins emanating a progressive, brightening, pale, silvery aquamarine lotus D13.5 light, together with a corresponding felt vibration. Breathe gently now from the Ka center or chakra 2, observing that the lotus crystal is in the tip of the tailbone or coccyx. So we're continuing to breathe gently from the Ka center as we observe the lotus, the aquamarine lotus crystal in the coccyx. Notice that the crystal in the coccyx flashes into a beautiful pale silvery aquamarine starburst, and observe that as this starburst flash of light occurs in the coccyx, a set of 24 corresponding aquamarine lotus starbursts flash on, one in each of the 24 Padakam lotus points, and sense that a corresponding vibration emerges in all of these 24 lotus points before spreading into the central vertical current and the pillar of power. Now shift your attention to the Nadraki feet point and inhale deeply from the Nadraki, using the breath to draw that pale silvery aquamarine lotus light simultaneously from all 24 lotus points, drawing the light from these 24 lotus points into the central pillar of power and down into the Nadraki, coinciding with the top of the inhale. Holding the inhale briefly at the top, forcefully exhale as the Nadraki at the Nadraki, and push the starburst of pale silvery aquamarine lotus light outward from the center of the Nadraki, drawing then outward from the center of the Nadraki. Then quickly but gently inhale, drawing a cord of lotus light up from the Nadraki to the Ra center at chakra 3. Then gently exhale at the Ra center. And breathe now normally from the Ra center, using each exhale breath to push rays of aquamarine lotus light outward from around the entire body. I'll just repeat that. Breathe normally now from the Ra center, using each exhale breath to push rays of aquamarine lotus light outward and all around the entire body from the Ra center. Observing that on each inhale, the lotus light in the Ra center, Nadraki, pillar of power, and all the lotus points intensifies and brightens. So I'll say that again. So on each inhale that we're doing, the lotus light in the Ra center, the Nadraki, the pillar of power, and all the lotus points intensifies and brightens. Continue these natural lotus light breathing from the Ra center. And now as we do this, observe or intend as the D1.75 black heart of Anubis implant pops and transmutes into a spark of gold dust at the bottom of the Ka center in chakra 2. Next, observe or intend as a gold metallic pin that extends from the knee point to the center of chakra 4, the heart chakra, rapidly de-densifies and transmutes into D13.5 lotus light. While doing this, continue the Ra center lotus light breathing. We're breathing from the Ra. On each inhale, the lotus light in the Ra center, Nadra key, pillar of power, and all lotus points intensifies. And on the exhale, we're using the exhale to push the rays of aquamarine lotus light outward around the entire body. So continuing this normal Ra center lotus light breathing, we're now ready to sense or observe that the D1.5 green witch, reversed D3 ethos rod in the upper thigh region, and the D2 counterpart in the base of the Ra center chakra 3 both spin on a horizontal plane clockwise from your back to left arm to right to front right arm, resuming the natural 3 east left, 9 west right shield position of the ethos rod. And while continuing normal Ra center lotus light breathing, we're going to now finally observe or intend as a dense gold metallic buckyball C60 radiation harness emerges with the density 1 Nadradon cell between the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet, and the lower calves. And an aquamarine lotus flash emerges from the Nadra key point. At this point, we're going to think geodesic sphere. Intend or observe that the C60 Nadradon cell radiation harness de-densifies and then disappears within the Nadradon cell. And then a beautiful 180 charge Adore standing flame emerges at the Nadra key and expands to fill the entire density 1 Nadradon cell between the Maharic shield and the lower calves. Inhale a deep, slow breath into the Nadra key and hold at the top of the inhale briefly, and then you will exhale once forcefully, using this breath to push the 180 Adore standing flame down from the down into the Mahadra at earth core. Exhale. This Adore standing flame will remain and continue activation of all the Nadradon cells. Breathe now and forever from the Mahadra Adore flame to enter the perpetual cycle of Atmos regeneration through Talaya breathing. And that completes the Nadradon activation. Just before we all kind of go into party mode again, there was a question and a bit of confusion about the codes and the placement. Mackie, Haldoon was giving instructions in India, and so I was busy doing something else at the time. So Haldoon, would you like to clarify what we do with the stacking of the codes, the little codes? Would you like to do that? No, he says. Please, just for us. Oh, yeah. And then when we cut them out, we're going to be stacking them? Yeah. It's just, yeah.
These you just cut out, okay? These are for the UK techniques. Just cut the squares apart. Okay? These, you have a whole page of them. You only need one. Okay? The rest you can stick in your sock drawer. These, they're going to be stacked and put on this one. And you can take one of each, 1, 2, and 3, stack them on top. There'll be glue sticks out tomorrow so you can glue them together. Everybody clear? What order is that? even matter.
I'm not sure that matters.
Only if
So
male or tennis. and then you can just make it up. We're going to start at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and please, ladies and gentlemen, the agendas or the itinerary is they're going to be handed out as you leave. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for asking for that again.
And please don't forget to sign up if you want to be a field volunteer. As you step out, the sign-up sheet is right down outside the door on the tables, please.
5 techniques in a row, okay? One thing I'd like to say about these techniques is that there's... Is that okay? Turn what down? Is this okay? Oh, it's not okay. Okay. All right. These techniques that I'm going to be reading, there's a lot of explanation in between breaths. So please feel free to take breaths in between. We don't want anybody passing out. Okay. All right. Everybody set? Okay. If we can all say this at once, in unison, that would be really nice. In the name of the Melchizedek cloister, Ma'a Hawete Unise Eshadur. Ma'a Hawete Unise Eshadur. Ma'a Hawete Unise Eshadur. Le'etore Ithwa Duete Niwa. Le'etore Ithwa Duete Niwa. Le'etore Ithwa Duete Niwa. I am the Adondra 360. I am the Adondra 360. I am the Adondra 360. Adondra Yesta Uchiwa Edene. Adandra Yesta Uchiwa Edene. Adandra Yesta Uchiwa Edene. Taesha Intadore. Taesha Intadore. Taesha Intadore. Okay, that was good. All right. Is that up there? This is the code that we're going to be using for the first technique. It's called the Eshara Rushate Kamelohati code. So if you want to just close your eyes, slow your breathing, wiggle around in your seat until you're comfortable. Take a few slow, deep breaths. This is called the Zendradhan Awakening, Technique 1. The Eshara Rushate Kamelohati Initiation. Opening the motor atare ducts for electrical Zendradhan cell 12.5, 11.5 initiation. Preparation, generally, all Kathara level 2, 3, and Kathara level 4 Ra activation techniques. Specifically, activate eyes of Ra currents not more than 12 to 18 hours prior. A copy, preferably in color, of the Eshara Rushate Kamelohati code, or the Chem code, should be to hand. So you can use the visual on the screen. Actions. Releasing the Zendradan seed, K12, chakra 10, 6 inches above the head. Step 1. Imprint optically induct the Eshara Rushate Kamelohati code, the Chem code, into the Ra center via the pineal on a 48-point lotus breath inhale. Exhale the imprint of the Chem code gently into the Ra center. Use the next inhale breath to draw the Chem code up to the pineal. Then exhale slowly into the pineal, allowing the exhale breath to expand the Chem code outward from the pineal, forming a 3-dimensional Chem code sphere entirely around the head, extending outward from the head about 3 inches in diameter. Inhale slowly and firmly into the pineal on a single point axis, using the inhale to secure an energetic hold on the inside skin of the Chem code sphere around the head. Do not contract the Chem code sphere with the inhale. Just intend or visualize a secure hold on the inside layer of the code sphere. And hold that inhale. Now exhale sharply and quickly downward, using the exhale breath to rapidly draw the Chem code sphere down into the Mahadra point. Chakra 13, earth core. Hold on full exhale. Holding the breath at the bottom of the exhale, attention at the earth core. Observe that the Chem code sphere is now centered around the Mahadra and has begun to emit a series of complex digital-like tones as it communicates instructions to the Mahadra and the Rushate spiral. Inhale a single point breath gently into the Mahadra and hold at the top of the inhale. Hold. And exhale forcefully downward from the Mahadra into chakra 15 in deep space. Out the other side of earth, and hold the exhale at the bottom with attention focused on the Chem code sphere at the Mahadra. Observe as you sit with the inner silence of the exhale breath pause. The Chem code sphere begins to emit a high-pitched, soft whining sound that ascends in pitch until the sound suddenly disappears into silence. Inhale gently into the Mahadra. Then exhale a fast, sharp 2-point horizontal breath out of the Mahadra on a right-left axis. Noticing that as you exhale, the Chem code sphere launches upward like a rocket, shooting straight up through your central vertical column and into chakra 10, 6 inches above your head. Breathe gentle, slow 48-point lotus breaths from the Ra center and observe the Chem code sphere at chakra 10. At first, the Chem code will seem to have disappeared, but within a few seconds it will reappear, filled with brilliant golden silver one light, and will change from a circular sphere shape into an elliptical sphere egg shape, with pale silver light forming the white of the egg. And deep inside the egg, a brilliant pale yellow gold yolk emerges. Continue breathing gently from the Ra center and observing the golden silver one cosmic Chem code egg at chakra 10. Now focus your mental attention on the center of the egg yolk and give the mental command, Zendra rise, Zendradan awaken. And as the pale aquamarine spark appears at the center of the Chem code egg yolk, inhale from the Ra center and draw the breath up to the Azure. Completely inhale into the Azure and hold this breath. Now exhale on a single point breath up from the Azure and into the pale aquamarine spark within the egg yolk of the Chem code at chakra 10. When the exhale reaches the egg yolk Chem code, the pale aquamarine spark turns into a small starburst, then flies rapidly down the central vertical column to the Mahadra at earth core. Breathe gently from the Ra center and observe as a pale aquamarine breathing tube about 2 inches in diameter opens within your central vertical column. all the way from the Mahadra at Earth Core and into the Chem Code egg at Chakra 10, 6 inches above your head. The K12 seal at the center of the Zendradhan cell has now been released. Return to normal breathing and observe that the Chem Code egg and Aquamarine Zendradhan breathing tube remain with you and active from this moment forth. As you go through the next few hours, imagine that you can see and feel the beautiful spiraling pale silver gold violet current from the Zendradhan moving gently downward through the 2-inch pale aquamarine breathing tube. You are now prepared for the Zendradhan activation cycle, though please observe a minimum 6-hour stabilization period before proceeding with any further techniques. That's just for people that aren't here. Okay. Okay. We're going breaths in between. The Zendradhan Awakening Technique 2, Zendradhan Cell Activation, Opening the Breathing Tube, the 8 Breaths of Reclamation. Preparation is all Kathara Level 2-3 and Kathara Level 4, Belize, August 2004 Ra Activation Techniques, plus Zendradhan Technique 1. Note, in this technique, movement of the Maharic shield is used to direct movement of the ethos body photo flame cell. Right. Everybody knows where the Maharic shield is, right? Okay. All right. Inhale into the Ra center on a 48-point axis and draw the density lotus arcs to vertical inhale position to begin a breathing cycle. The inhale breath is a 0-point breath, the start position, and is thus breath 0, not counted in the number count as follows. The conscious 0-point breath simply brings the ethos particum grids into start position. From the 0-point Ra center inhale, exhale downward, using the exhale breath to push the Maharic shield, ethos density force shield, downward to the earth core. This fully expands the ethos grid downward from particum. As you exhale and push the Maharic shield down, expand lotus arcs to 45 degrees axis, expansion inhale position. Inhale upward to the Ra center, using the inhale to draw the Maharic shield upwards to a position 12 inches below your feet. This equals full alignment of ethos and particum grids and photo cells, and draw lotus arcs to vertical. Count actions 2 and 3 as exhale 1, inhale 1. We're going to repeat actions 2 and 3 to complete a 6 exhale, 5 inhale breath cycle, moving the Maharic shield up and down with the breaths and moving lotus arcs in and out in synchronization. After we complete the 5th inhale breath, we're going to pause before initiating the 6th inhale following the 6th exhale. So we're going to do this 5 more times. So from the 0-point Ra center inhale, exhale downward, using the exhale breath to push the Maharic shield downward to earth core. Expand your lotus arcs to 45-degree axis, expansion inhale position. Inhale upward to the Ra center, using the inhale to draw the Maharic shield upwards to a position 12 inches below your feet, and draw lotus arcs to vertical. Okay, that was exhale 2, inhale 2. I'm going to go back here to from the Ra center inhale, the 0-point Ra center inhale, exhale downward, using the exhale breath to push the Maharic shield downward to the earth core, expanding lotus arcs to 45-degree axis, expansion inhale position. Inhale upward to the Ra center, using the inhale breath to draw the Maharic shield upward to position 12 inches below your feet, and draw lotus arcs to vertical. That was exhale 3. Inhale 3. Now we move from the 0-point Ra center inhale, exhale downward, using the exhale breath to push the Maharic shield downward to earth core, expand lotus arcs to 45-degree axis, expansion inhale position. Inhale upward to the Ra center, using the inhale to draw the Maharic shield upwards to a position 12 inches below your feet, and draw lotus arcs to vertical. That was exhale 4, inhale 4. From the 0-point Ra center inhale, exhale downward, using the exhale breath to push the Maharic shield down to the earth core and expand lotus arcs to 45-degree axis, expansion inhale position. Inhale upward to the Ra center, Using the inhale breath to draw the Maharic shield upwards to a position 12 inches below your feet and draw lotus arcs to vertical. That was exhale 5. Inhale 5. From the 0 point Ra center inhale, exhale downward. Using the exhale breath to push the Maharic shield downward to earth core. Expand lotus arcs to 45-degree axis expansion. Inhale. Okay, so we're going to do this one more time. From the 0 point Ra center inhale, exhale downward. Using the exhale breath to push the Maharic shield downward to the earth core and expand lotus arcs to 45-degree axis expansion. Inhale position. Pause. This is called the quickening initiates. At the bottom of the 6th exhale, the Maharic shield is in the earth core, density arcs open to 45-degree expansion position. Pause to receive the D13 monadic spark in the seed atom deep within the azure. The 6th inhale, the quickening ethos ascent. Inhale at the Ra center, using the inhale 6 to draw Maharic shield all the way up from earth core to chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head, aligning ethos and Eroth grid's photocells. The Zendrodon cell initiates, draw lotus arcs to vertical. Okay, this is step 6 and 7, the Aro Alan cycle, the 7th exhale Eros descent, etheric Aro electrical peak, and Zendrodon activates. Exhale from chakra 12A at the center of the Maharic shield, 24 inches above your head, using the exhale to push the Maharic shield to a position 12 inches below your feet. Aligning ethos, Eros, and particum photocells. Expand lotus arcs to 45 degrees as you exhale. Zendrodon cell activates. Pause at the bottom of this exhale. 7th inhale, 1/3 inhale, ethos, Alan magnetic peak. Inhale from the center of the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet, using a 1/3 inhale to draw the Maharic shield up to the Eumbi point, just below the navel, and draw lotus arcs from 45-degree expansion to 30-degree expansion only, not all the way to vertical, just a shift from 45 degrees to 30 degrees, and pause at 30 degree. Inhale with the Maharic shield at the Eumbi and lotus arcs at 30 degrees, Anatilia state begins. Etheric and D1 atomic cells begin 45-degree shift to Eka axis. The 8th breath, breathing tube opens. Exhale from the center of the Maharic shield at the Eumbi, using the exhale to push the Maharic shield from the Eumbi to earth core, as lotus arcs close to vertical axis. Eka Loda breathing tube opens and Rushata braided etheric rainbow ray, 15-chord current descends from Eka Loda breathing tube into Particum Loti and Partike Loti breathing tubes, opening Loti and Loti breathing tubes and drawing Loti and Loti D1 bodies and their etheric cells into Biveka fold, initiating a Thanatilia state. Rushe pillar and Rushate spiral reset initiates, pillar 1 D1 subharmonics, 1 through 6 reset. Loti and Loti shift to Eka 0 point axis, completing 45-degree shift and aligning within the Shalaya chamber of the Ark of the Covenant passage. The 8th inhale, Rushate spiral activation. Inhale from the center of the Maharic shield at earth core, using the inhale to draw the Maharic shield up from earth core to chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head, drawing Loti and Loti into merger with Lota on D13 monadic and D1 subatomic levels. The Zendrodon cell consummates, Rushate spiral chords, and Rushe pillar D1 subharmonics, 7 through 12 reset. Rainbow ray braid at center of breathing tube activates in preparation for activation of the diamond sun crystal body respiratory system. Just take a couple minutes in between before we begin this next technique. Yes, I can do that. Just didn't want anybody fainting on us here. Well, I'll do my best. Some people want it fast, some people want it slow. So just take a couple minutes, stabilize your fields a little bit. We're going to be doing the Zendrodon Awakening Technique 3, releasing the Shanate. Preparation for this is all Kathara level 2, 3, and 4, Belize, August 2004 techniques, plus Zendrodon techniques 1 and 2. A copy of the chem code, preferably in color to hand. This is the chem code up here on the screen. Okay. We're going to begin with the Maharic Shield Ethos Density 4 Shield still stationed at Chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head, and the Eros Density 4 Shield stationed 12 inches below your feet. Draw a 2-point inhale breath through the center of the breathing tube, one descending from Chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, one ascending from Chakra 13 at Earth Core into the seed and monadic core at the Azure, while leaving the Maharic Ethos Shield and Eros Shield in their Lota alignment positions. Pause at the top of the inhale with mental focus on the Azure. Remember to draw the density lotus arcs, Ranate arcs, into the vertical position as you inhale. Look at, visualize, or intend an image of the Chem code, the Eshara Rushate Kemelohati monadic code, at the center of your seed atom at the Azure. Then forcefully exhale from the Azure on a 6-petal axis, using the exhale breath to open the density Ranate lotus arcs outward to the 45-degree axis position, and pause at the bottom of this exhale. Next, slowly inhale into the Azure, using the inhale breath to slowly draw the density Ranate arcs back into vertical position, while expanding your mental awareness to the presence of the larger Shanate Diamond Sun Lotus Arc sets of the Lotosphere and Logosphere in the crystal body. As you slowly inhale, bringing the Ranate arcs into vertical closed position, observe and intend that the larger Shanate arc sets, which have been phase locked in their vertical closed position, begin expanding their petals into the 45-degree position in synchronization with the contraction of the smaller Ranate arcs. As the Shanate arcs expand and the Ranate arcs contract with the inhale, notice a sensation of energy leaving your breathing tube as the Shanate expansion draws spent energy out of the pillar of power and back into the Ekalota. As this occurs, the Mayanic crystal and Meiotic vortices activate, opening the outgoing radionic heliopaths, creating a vacuum within the breathing tube center. Pause at the top of the slow inhale and mentally orient the arcs. The Shanate expanded at 45 degrees and the Ranate arcs fully contracted vertical into the central breathing tube. Try to sense the vacuum within the pillar of power breathing tube. That was a really long one, so if you want to take another breath, go ahead before we do another exhale. Okay. Now slowly begin to exhale from the Azure on a 2-point up-down vertical axis in the breathing tube. As the slow exhale progresses, intend or visualize that as the 2-point vertical breath slowly moves upward and downward, the density Ranate arcs synchronistically expand out of their vertical closed position and back to a 45-degree axis position. As the 2-point exhale breath continues, the Ranate arcs expand, open, and the Shanate diamond arcs synchronistically close and contract to the vertical position. At the bottom of the 2-point exhale breath, the 2-point breath will be expanded up and down the breathing tube from Chakra 13 at Earth Core to Chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. The Ranate arcs are at full 45-degree expansion, and the Shanate diamond arcs are at full contraction. The Shanate petals align vertically within the crystal body breathing tube. And you pause at that top of that, bottom of that exhale. Pause for a moment at the bottom of this exhale and ensure the proper orientation of the arc sets, as described above. And take a series of 6 offline surface breaths, breathing normally through the lungs only, not through the Azure, while keeping the lotus arc sets and breathing tubes fixed in their Ranate exhale positions. During the 6 surface breaths, focus your mental attention on the interaction of energy that takes place between the Shanate arcs and the 0.5 radon cells of the breathing tube as the Shanate inhale and Ranate exhale occurs. The Sha arcs are closed and aligned vertically within the breathing tube. As this occurs, the 24-point lotus points activate and receive energy infusion from the Lota, generating pulsar plasma waves that enter and activate the dionic crystal and diodic vortices and incoming radionic heliopathic tubes of the diamond sun crystal body. As the pulsar plasma waves move inward toward the pillar of power, they release a etheric atomic backflow radon current moving outward through the heliopath tubes. You're still taking surface breaths here. The radon backflow currents turn on the heliotalic rays, outward emanating, of the diamond sun crystal body. The inward moving pulsar plasma waves move inward through the heliopath tubes into the interwoven 24 lotus points. And the lotus points transfer the pulsar waves into the radon cells in the breathing tube for storage. As you breathe normally using surface breaths, lungs only, try to mentally follow this energy exchange from the Shanate arcs. Before re-engaging breathing tube azure breaths, mentally orient the larger Sha arcs in their closed vertical inhale position and the Ra arcs in their 45-degree axis open exhale position, and visualize or intend that the sequence of heliopath tube sun rays turning on and the 5 radon cells of the pillar of power turning to glowing orbs as they receive their infusion of pulsar plasma waves from the 24 lotus points. In a second, we're going to re-engage breathing tube breaths. Okay, so we're going to re-engage the breathing tube breaths with a slow 2-point inhale from the azure, breathing energy down from chakra 14 and up from chakra 13, breaths meeting in the azure. Notice as you re-engage the breathing tube with the azure inhale, the smaller Ra density arcs, which were in the expanded 45-degree position, move to vertical inhale position, and the larger Sha diamond arcs expand out of their inhale back to their 45-degree exhale position and pause. Pause at the top of the inhale and observe, intend that the breathing tube is vacated of energy by the exhaling Sha arcs until the breathing tube reaches a rapid vacuum state. And then, as this vacuum state is reached, the radon cells fire, releasing a flood of heliotalic spark pulsar waves into the Rushate spiral in the breathing tube. Exhale, a 2-point vertical breath slowly down from the azure, upward downward in the breathing tube, while observing, intending that the smaller Ra arcs expand to 45-degree axis, and the Sha arcs again contract to vertical. Pause at the bottom of the exhale, and observe, intend that at the exhale of the Ra, the Rushate spiral in the breathing tube transmits the incoming pulsar waves released from the radon cells to the Rushate spiral during previous Ranate inhale, step 6, to the chakra seals, polarizes the Rushate spiral to open the breathing tube and turn on the chakras. When the chakras release the synthesized pulsar wave currents to the nadis lines, nadial capsule, DNA template, silver sanctum, akasha-shaped flame body, lotus points, yan flow, and into the Manu windows in the nucleus of all atoms in the body, beginning with those of the chemical DNA, and simultaneously the Sha arcs inhale and breathe in more plasma rays to charge the radon cells. The breathing tube respiration cycle is now set in motion. Practice several sets of double arc inhale-exhale breaths from the azure, using the Ra close for the Ranate and the Sha open for the Shanate mental command on each physical inhale, and Ra open, Sha close mental command on each physical exhale. Use slow breaths and try to mentally keep track of counter-moving, expanding, contracting arc sets, knowing that in this movement, the realities of energy exchange within the breathing tube are taking place automatically. So when you inhale, you say Ra close, Sha open, and on each physical, I beg your pardon, I said that wrong. Let's see. That was right. Okay. All right. And Ra, okay, you know what? I'm going to read this over again. Practice several sets of double arc inhale-exhale breaths from the azure, using the Ra close, Sha open mental command on each physical inhale, and the Ra open, Sha close mental command on each physical exhale. Use slow breaths and try to mentally keep track of the counter-moving, expanding, contracting arc sets, knowing that in this movement, The realities of energy exchange within the breathing tube are taking place automatically. Hopefully you can keep better track of that than I did. Okay. Just take a few minutes to practice that breathing before we move into the next technique. Okay, we're going to get ready to do Zendradan Awakening Technique 4. And again, feel free to breathe. I see some people holding their breath. Veins popping out. It's okay to breathe in between. The Zendradan Awakening Technique 4, restoring the Rushate spiral to the Christic imprint, overriding the graviton sextant vortex system. Preparation is all Kathara level 2, 3, and 4, Belize August 2004 techniques, plus Zendradan techniques 1, 2, and 3, Chem code, Eshara, Rushate, Kamaloha T code to hand. Again, that's the one that's up on the screen. Okay. Inhale a 48.0 point breath into the Ra center, bringing the Ranate Ra density arcs into vertical inhale position, and expand Shanate Sha diamond arcs out to their 45-degree axis exhale position. Bring the Maharg shield up to 12 inches below the feet. Look at, visualize, or intend the Chem code at the center of the Maharg shield 12 inches below the feet. Then exhale rapidly from the Azure on a single point breath downward, using the exhale to push the Maharg shield downward from 12 inches below the feet into Chakra 13 at the Mahadra Earth core. As you exhale, draw the smaller Ra density arcs to 45-degree axis exhale position and the Sha diamond arcs into the vertical closed position. When the Maharg shield enters the earth core at the bottom of the exhale, rapidly and forcefully inhale from the Mahadra Chakra 13 at earth core, center of Maharg shield in the earth core, using the inhale breath to rapidly draw the Maharg shield all the way up to Chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, and hold the breath at the top of this inhale. You notice that as you rapidly drew the Maharg shield up to Chakra 14, the Ra density arcs closed to vertical, and the Sha diamond arcs expanded to 45-degree axis. But also, that as the Maharg shield passed into Chakra 14 and the parallel D14 primal light field, the diagonal petals of the larger Sha arcs expanded to their 45-degree axis exhale position, then popped and jumped, continuing a rapid phase expansion to the horizontal 90-degree axis before immediately jumping back to the 45-degree expansion axis. As the Sha arcs jumped from 45 to 90 degrees to spark the Loti rod, the Ra arcs in their inhale vertical position were briefly joined by two more arcs from the PKA Loti, and that flashed on the horizontal 90-degree axis of the Particum Loti rod. The rods of the Loti and the Loti spark at the top of the inhale breath as the Loti Maharg shield ascends to Chakra 14 for reset of the Rushate spiral, axiom, and DNA template, the template of the time codes. Okay, now we're going to exhale. So if you want to take another inhale. Exhale forcefully from the center of the Maharg shield at Chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, using the exhale to push the Maharg shield all the way down to the Mahadra at Chakra 13 earth core, setting the restored Rushate spiral template into your etheric seed atom replica that exists within Earth's shield at the point of your personal Mahadra point at Chakra 13, and pause at the bottom of this exhale. Notice that the Sha arcs have contracted to their vertical inhale position and that the Ra arcs have expanded to their 45-degree axis exhale position. Inhale gently and slowly from the center of the Maharic shield at earth core, using the inhale to draw the Maharic shield up from earth core to a position 12 inches below the feet. Continue the inhale staying at the 12 inches below the feet, keeping the Maharic shield in this position while expanding the remainder of the inhale breath outward on a horizontal plane through the Maharic shield and along the 12 fire letter lines of the Maharic shield. Leaving the Maharic shield station 12 inches below the feet, exhale a starburst of pale aquamarine and pale silver violet heliotalic frequency outward from the center of your Maharic shield and through all 12 fire letters lines simultaneously. Return to surface breathing and observe as the entire Maharic shield and both the Shanate and Ranate lotus arc sets flash with a brilliant pale aquamarine, pale silver violet light. The restored Rushite spiral genetic time code template is now fully embedded within the etheric density templates. Take a final 24-point inhale breath into the Azuraean seed atom, drawing the raw arcs vertical and the larger Sha arcs to 45 degrees. Exhale gently on a 6-point axis along the lotus arc transmission lines of the Ranate, and observe or intend that your diamond sun crystal body heliopath tubes in the outer lotosphere and logosphere turn on, and your crystal body looks like a sunburst with 48 outgoing rays. Resume natural surface breathing and be aware that your Rushite spiral will now self-adjust itself and the entire D13 and D1 anatomy to the restored Christic pattern. Your Sha and Ra arcs will follow their natural time wave of counterphasing, and your breathing tube will stay open, all on the D13 and D1 levels only with Zendradon activation, setting the core of the crystal body biocomputer to the natural Christic pattern in preparation for Kethradon activation. This D13, D1 restoration of the Rushite spiral will initiate self-realignment of the Myonic and Dionic crystals. The chakras can now be individually reset to natural Rushite to expedite restoration of natural planetary alignment in etheric and physical bodies. And this will be the next technique. So just take a few minutes. You're going to need your chakra codes that you cut out this morning. I don't see why not. Does everybody know what the lotus touch finger position is? If anybody doesn't know what the lotus touch finger position is, could you raise your hand? Okay. You take your 3 fingers like this, thumb around the little finger. Does everybody have their chakra codes? Okay.